Narrator intense. This is the moment when a cleaning woman walks into a billionaire's office after hours and discovers him in tears, holding a photo of her, forever changing both their lives. Maya, defiant. I won't be your redemption project, Dominic. I need to know if what we feel is real. Dominic, vulnerable. I'm falling in love with you, Maya Ellis. I think I have been since the moment you walked into my office. When worlds collide, can love overcome the barriers of guilt, grief, and vastly different backgrounds? A chance encounter brings together two broken souls connected by tragedy, but as their feelings deepen, Maya must decide if she can trust the man whose sister's life was saved at the ultimate cost to her family. Will opening her heart lead to healing, or only more heartbreak? Before we begin this emotional journey, we'd love to know, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your city in the comments below. The night shift at Silvergate Tower was Maya Ellis's favorite. The bustling Manhattan skyscraper, home to some of the city's most powerful companies, transformed after hours. The marble lobby that intimidated during daylight became peaceful under dimmed lights. The elevators no longer rushed with impatient executives, and the offices, those glass fortresses of power, became just rooms that needed cleaning. Tonight was Tuesday, which meant the executive floor. Maya pushed her cleaning cart from the service elevator, nodding at the security guard who barely looked up from his phone. "Evening, Maya," he said without enthusiasm. "Evening, Gary," she replied softly. At 26, Maya had perfected the art of invisibility. Not too loud, not too noticeable. Just present enough to do her job well, but quiet enough that no one really saw her. It hadn't always been this way. Before the accident 3 years ago, Maya had been studying art therapy, planning to help children process trauma through creativity. She'd been loud with laughter then, quick with opinions, generous with her dreams. Now she was just trying to keep her head above water, working double shifts between this corporate building at night and a diner on weekends. The money wasn't great, but it was enough to help raise her 16-year-old niece Zoe and slowly chip away at the mountain of debt her parents had left behind. The executive floor was dimly lit, with only security lights casting long shadows down the hallway. Maya started her routine at the far end, moving methodically from office to office. Empty trash bins, wiped-down surfaces, vacuum carpets, clean glass partitions. By midnight, she had reached the corner of the building. The nameplate on the frosted glass door read, "Dominic Hale, CEO." Unlike the other offices she'd cleaned, this one had an almost mythical status among the cleaning staff. Mr. Hale, the 31-year-old billionaire who had turned Silvergate Holdings into one of the most aggressive investment firms in the city, rarely left evidence of human occupation. His desk was perpetually clear, his trash bin nearly empty, his space immaculate. Some cleaners joked he was actually a robot. Others said he never actually came to the office, preferring to rule his empire remotely. Maya had been cleaning this floor for 8 months and had never once seen him. She pushed open the heavy glass door, flicking on her small flashlight rather than the overhead lights. Most executives preferred that cleaners not flood their offices with bright light, potentially revealing sensitive documents. In the cone of her flashlight beam, she saw what she expected: the minimalist desk, the wall of awards, the sleek furniture. Then her light caught movement. Maya froze. There, slumped in the large leather chair behind the desk, was a man. His head was in his hands, shoulders hunched forward. The beam of her flashlight illuminated the sleek silver watch on his wrist, probably worth more than she made in a year. "I'm sorry," Maya said quickly, backing away. "I didn't realize anyone was here." The man didn't respond immediately. He didn't even look up. Maya was about to retreat and close the door when he finally spoke. "No, wait," he said, his voice rough. "It's fine. You can come in." Maya hesitated, her hand still on the door handle. The cleaning company had strict rules about disturbing executives, but something in his voice, pain maybe, made her pause. "Are you sure?" she asked. "I can come back later." "No need." He sat up straighter now, revealing a face that Maya recognized from business magazines and news clips. Dominic Hale, the man whose name was on the door, the billionaire who had taken over his father's company at 25 and tripled its value in 6 years. His face was different from the magazine covers, though. His eyes were red, his normally perfect hair disheveled, and on the desk in front of him, face up in the beam of her flashlight, was a photograph. Maya stepped closer, drawn by a strange familiarity. The photo showed a young woman standing outside a hospital, holding a small bouquet of yellow flowers. She was smiling, but her eyes held sadness. It took Maya several seconds to realize she was looking at herself. The air seemed to vanish from the room. Maya's flashlight trembled in her hand, the beam dancing across the photograph, her photograph, from 3 years ago. A photo she barely remembered being taken. "Why do you have that?" The words escaped her mouth before she could stop them. Dominic Hale stared at her, his eyes widening as if seeing her clearly for the first time. He looked from the photo to her face and back again, his expression shifting from grief to shock. "You're her," he whispered. Maya took a step back, suddenly afraid. Why did this powerful man have her picture? Why had he been crying over it? Her mind raced through possibilities, none of them comforting. "I should go," she said firmly, gripping her cleaning cart. "I'll have someone else finish this office." She turned quickly, wheeling her cart toward the door, heart pounding. "Wait, please," Dominic called after her, rising from his chair. "I can explain." But Maya didn't wait. She pushed her cart faster down the hallway, past the other offices she hadn't yet cleaned. She'd make up an excuse to her supervisor, claim illness, anything to get away from that office and the strange, unsettling moment. She reached the elevator and jabbed the button repeatedly, glancing back down the corridor. Dominic had followed her, standing now at his office doorway, watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. The elevator doors opened, and Maya rushed inside, pressing the button for the ground floor. As the doors began to close, she caught one last glimpse of Dominic Hale. He wasn't pursuing her, just standing still, looking like a man who had seen a ghost. Maybe he had. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat in the small living room of the apartment she shared with Zoe, a cup of tea growing cold in her hands, replaying the strange encounter over and over. How did Dominic Hale have her photo? Why had he been crying over it? The image had been taken at Memorial Hospital, she was sure of it. It was the day after her parents' accident, when she'd brought flowers for her mother's best friend, a nurse in the ICU. Someone, a journalist maybe, had asked to take her picture for a story about the accident. She'd agreed without really thinking, still numb with shock. "You're up early," Zoe said, shuffling into the living room in pajamas covered with cartoon sloths. Despite the trauma of losing her parents, Maya's brother and sister-in-law at 13, Zoe had managed to retain her bright spirit. Her dark curls were wild from sleep, and she squinted against the morning light. "Couldn't sleep," Maya admitted, setting down her tea. "How about some breakfast before school?" Zoe flopped onto the couch beside her. "You look weird. Did something happen at work?" Maya considered lying, then decided against it. She and Zoe had promised to be honest with each other after everything they'd lost. "I saw something strange last night. The CEO of Silvergate was in his office, looking at an old photo of me, from right after the accident." Zoe sat up straighter. "Wait, what? That's super creepy. Did you call security?" "No, it wasn't like that. He seemed sad, like he was grieving." Maya shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe there's a connection to Mom and Dad's accident that I don't know about." "You should find out," Zoe said, suddenly serious. "If it has something to do with how they died, you deserve to know." Maya nodded slowly. "Maybe, but I'm not sure I want to talk to him. It was pretty uncomfortable." "Well, I think it's weird he has your picture. Rich people think they can do anything." Zoe stood up. "I'm starving. Can we have waffles?" Maya smiled, grateful for her niece's ability to shift gears so easily. Waffles it is. As they ate breakfast, Maya tried to push the strange encounter from her mind. She had more immediate concerns. Bills to pay, a shift at the diner to work, Zoe's upcoming school science fair. Whatever Dominic Hale's connection to her past was, it would have to wait. But the universe had other plans. That afternoon, while Maya was waiting tables at Eddie's diner, her phone buzzed with a text from her supervisor at the cleaning company. "Need to talk. Call ASAP." A cold knot formed in Maya's stomach. Was she being fired for walking out on her shift? She excused herself to the back room and called immediately. "Maya, glad you called," her supervisor Rita said. "HR wants to see you at the main office tomorrow morning at 9. "HR, why? Is something wrong?" Rita sighed. "Look, I don't know the details, but they said it's about last night. Something happened at Silvergate." Maya's hand tightened around the phone. I accidentally disturbed an executive who was working late. I apologized and left." "Well, someone made a call about it. Just show up tomorrow, okay? And Maya, dress nice." The call ended, leaving Maya with a sinking feeling. In her experience, being called to HR was never good news. She'd have to find another night job, maybe pick up more shifts at the diner. The thought of falling behind on Zoe's school payments made her stomach hurt. Teatu, the cleaning company's main office, occupied a small, dingy suite in a building that had seen better days. Maya arrived 15 minutes early, wearing the only professional outfit she owned, a navy blue skirt and white blouse she'd bought for job interviews. The receptionist directed her to a small conference room where a nervous-looking HR representative waited with a folder. "Ms. Ellis, thank you for coming in," the woman said, gesturing for Maya to sit. "I'm Barbara from Human Resources." "Am I being fired?" Maya asked directly, too anxious for small talk. Barbara looked surprised. "Fired? No, nothing like that. Actually, we've received a rather unusual request." She slid a piece of paper across the table. "Mr. Dominic Hale has asked for a private meeting with you at his office today." Maya stared at the paper, which detailed the time and location of the requested meeting. "I don't understand. Why would he want to meet with me?" "He didn't share his reasons," Barbara said, looking uncomfortable, "but he was very specific that it was a request, not a demand. You're free to decline. And if I decline, then nothing happens. You continue with your regular duties, but—" Barbara hesitated. "If I may speak candidly, Ms. Ellis, when someone like Dominic Hale makes a request, it's usually in one's best interest to at least hear what he has to say." Maya looked down at the paper again. "The meeting was scheduled for 11 a.m. at Silvergate Tower, just 2 hours from now. Can I think about it?" she asked. Barbara nodded. "Of course. But if you do decide to go, that outfit is perfect," she smiled encouragingly. "And for what it's worth, Mr. Hale specified that your job is secure regardless of your decision." Maya left the office with the paper clutched in her hand, feeling more confused than ever. On the sidewalk outside, she called the only person she could think of for advice. "Vanessa, it's Maya. I need to talk. Can you meet me at the coffee shop on 42nd? 20 minutes later, Maya sat across from her closest friend, explaining the bizarre turn of events. Vanessa Johnson had been Maya's rock since college. When Maya's life had imploded after her parents' death, Vanessa had helped her pick up the pieces, even finding her the cleaning job at Silvergate. "Let me get this straight," Vanessa said, stirring her latte. "This billionaire has a picture of you, cries over it, then requests a private meeting." She whistled low. "Girl, this is either the beginning of a romance novel or a true crime podcast." "It's not funny," Maya said, though a small smile escaped. "What should I do? I keep thinking about what Zoe said. If this has something to do with my parents' accident, don't I deserve to know?" Vanessa reached across the table, taking Maya's hand. "You absolutely deserve answers, but you also deserve safety. If you go, you meet in a public place, not his office, and you text me before, during, and after." Maya nodded, decision crystallizing. "Okay, I'll go, but I'm going to suggest the coffee shop in the Silvergate lobby instead of his office." She sent a text to the number provided on the paper and received an immediate response. "Coffee shop is fine. Thank you for agreeing to meet. TH." At exactly 11 a.m., Maya sat at a corner table in the busy Silvergate lobby coffee shop, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she couldn't afford but had ordered to justify her table. The place was filled with employees in expensive suits, none of whom spared her a glance. She spotted him the moment he stepped off the elevator. Even in a lobby full of well-dressed professionals, Dominic Hale stood out. Tall and imposing in a perfectly tailored grey suit, he moved with the confidence of someone who owned not just the building, but the very ground beneath it. Several people tried to catch his attention as he crossed the lobby, but he moved past them with polite nods, his eyes fixed on Maya's table. Up close she could see he looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes that even his obvious wealth couldn't conceal. "Ms. Ellis," he said, extending his hand, "thank you for coming." His handshake was firm but brief. He sat across from her, declining the server's offer of coffee with a shake of his head. "I owe you an explanation," he began, his voice low enough that nearby tables couldn't overhear. "And an apology for last night. I'm sure it was unsettling." "That's one word for it," Maya replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why do you have my photograph, Mr. Hale?" Dominic took a deep breath, his hands clasped tightly on the table. For a moment, he looked less like a powerful CEO and more like someone bracing himself for pain. 3 years ago, there was a car accident on the West Side Highway, he said. A black SUV hit a guardrail, flipped, and caught fire. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "My parents were killed in that accident." Dominic nodded, his expression grim. "Yes. Elijah and Denise Ellis. They were in the car directly behind the SUV that crashed. According to witnesses, they were the first ones to stop and help." Maya swallowed hard. She'd heard parts of this story from police reports, but much of that terrible night remained foggy in her memory. The woman in the burning SUV was my sister, Sophia, Dominic continued, his voice now barely above a whisper. Your father pulled her from the wreckage before the car exploded. Your mother stayed with her, applying pressure to a wound on her leg that was bleeding heavily until paramedics arrived. Maya sat perfectly still, the noise of the busy coffee shop fading away. I didn't know that. The police just told me they stopped to help at an accident, and then another car hit them. She paused, a terrible thought occurring to her. Was it your sister's car that hit them? No, Dominic said quickly. It was a drunk driver who came around the curve too fast. He hit your parents while they were still at the side of the road with Sophia. He looked down at his clasped hands. Your parents died saving my sister's life. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Maya felt tears gathering, but refused to let them fall. The photograph, she said, bringing them back to the original question. Where did you get it? A hospital staff photographer was documenting the accident for a piece on emergency response. When I was going through Sophia's things a few months after the accident, I found it among her possessions. She'd kept it because she wanted to thank you personally someday, but her injuries were extensive. She spent months in rehabilitation. And you've had my picture all this time? Why? Maya asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Dominic met her gaze directly. Because I promised Sophia I would find you and thank you on her behalf. And because every time I look at that photo, I'm reminded of the extraordinary sacrifice your family made. But you never did find me. Not until I walked into your office last night. We tried, he insisted. We hired investigators. All we had was your first name from the photographer's notes and a description of you bringing flowers to the hospital. But you'd left no contact information, and with such limited details. He shook his head. New York is a big city. Maya sat back, trying to process everything. So last night, you were looking at my photo and crying because something shifted in Dominic's expression, a flash of deeper pain quickly hidden. Yesterday was the anniversary of the accident, 3 years exactly. I was thinking about your parents, about Sophia, about how much changed that night. He paused, and then, like some kind of miracle, you walked through my door. The coincidence seemed impossible, and yet here they were. I work as a night cleaner in your building, Maya said flatly. Not exactly a miracle. You've been cleaning my office for how long? 8 months. 8 months, he repeated, shaking his head. And I never knew. I'm usually gone by 7. Last night was the first time I stayed so late in, I can't remember how long. They fell silent, each lost in private thoughts. Maya took a sip of her now cold tea, trying to reconcile this new information with the story she'd carried for 3 years. Ms. Ellis, Dominic finally said, Maya, I owe your family a debt I can never repay, but I'd like to try. Please, let me help you financially. Maya stiffened. Excuse me? I've been trying to find you for 3 years to offer assistance. Whatever you need, education expenses, housing, debt relief, anything. I don't need your charity, Mr. Hale, Maya said, her voice cold. It's not charity. It's the very least I can do to honor what your parents did. Maya stood up, gathering her purse. You don't owe me anything. You didn't choose what happened that night, and neither did my parents. They would have stopped for anyone. That's who they were. Dominic rose as well, towering over her. Please, just consider— Thank you for explaining the photograph, Maya interrupted. I'm glad to know my parents helped your sister, but I'm not interested in your money. She turned to leave, then paused, looking back at him. Does your sister know that you found me? A shadow crossed Dominic's face. Sophia died 6 months after the accident, complications from her injuries. The words hit Maya like a physical blow. I'm sorry, she said softly. Truly. Dominic nodded once, his jaw tight. So am I. Maya walked away, feeling his eyes on her back as she pushed through the revolving doors and out onto the busy Manhattan street. The morning sun was bright, traffic noise deafening, pedestrians rushing in every direction. But Maya stood still, absorbing what she'd just learned. Her parents had died heroes. They'd saved a woman who ultimately didn't survive. And now, through some cosmic coincidence, she'd come face to face with the brother of the woman they'd tried to save. It seemed like the end of a story, a mystery solved, a question answered. Maya had no way of knowing it was just the beginning. So it was 3 weeks past, and Maya did her best to return to normal life. She requested a transfer to a different building for her cleaning shifts, which her company granted without question. She picked up extra hours at the diner, helping Zoe with homework during slow periods between customers. but thoughts of Dominic Hale and his revelation about her parents lingered. Sometimes she caught herself looking up news about him online, learning about his reputation as a ruthless but innovative business leader. The articles portrayed him as cold, calculating, intensely private, nothing like the vulnerable man she'd seen crying over her photograph. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon at the diner when Maya looked up from refilling ketchup bottles to see Dominic Hale sitting in her section. He wore no tie, his white shirt open at the collar, but still looked painfully out of place among the regular customers. Maya approached his table slowly. "What are you doing here?" He looked up from the laminated menu. "Having lunch, I hope. There are 1,000 restaurants in Manhattan, and you picked Eddie's Diner." A small smile touched his lips. "I had a meeting nearby, and the reviews said the tuna melt is excellent." Maya crossed her arms. "Nobody comes to Eddie's for the tuna melt. How did you find me?" "You mentioned working at a diner on weekends in your employee file. There aren't that many diners in this neighborhood." He set down the menu. "I'm not stalking you, if that's what you're worried about. I just wanted to apologize for how our last conversation ended." Maya sighed, glancing around at the nearly empty diner. "Fine. What can I get you?" "The tuna melt. And coffee, black." She returned with his order several minutes later, placing it in front of him with more force than necessary. "Anything else?" Dominic looked up at her. "Actually, yes. I'd like you to know that I've made a donation to Memorial Hospital. They're establishing a new emergency response wing named after Elijah and Denise Ellis." Maya stared at him, caught off guard. "You did what?" It seemed like the right thing to do. "Your parents' actions that night saved lives. Not just Sophia's initially, but others who will benefit from improved emergency care." "You can't just... You should have asked me first," Maya stammered. "Would you have said yes?" "Probably not. That's why I didn't ask." He took a bite of his sandwich, then nodded appreciatively. "The reviews were right. This is good." Maya wanted to be angry, but found herself fighting a smile instead. "You're used to doing whatever you want, aren't you? Within reason. And who decides what's reasonable, you?" Dominic considered this. "Fair point. I apologize for not consulting you about the hospital wing, but I hope you'll visit it when it opens next month. The dedication ceremony is on the 15th. They'd like you to attend as the family representative." Maya shook her head. "I'm working that day. I'm sure your manager would give you the time off for something like this." "That's not the point. You can't just rearrange my life because you feel guilty." Dominic set down his fork, his expression turning serious. "This isn't about guilt, Maya. It's about honoring two people who did something extraordinary." Before Maya could respond, the bell above the diner door jingled and Zoe burst in, school backpack slung over one shoulder. "Maya, you won't believe what happened," she called out, rushing toward the counter before noticing Dominic. She stopped short, eyes widening. "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you had a customer." "It's fine," Maya said, beckoning her closer. "What happened?" Zoe approached cautiously, eyeing Dominic with teenage suspicion. "Ms. Rodriguez called. I got that art scholarship, the one to the summer program at Hudson Valley Arts Center." Maya's face lit up. "Zoe, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you." She pulled her niece into a tight hug, genuine joy momentarily overriding her tension with Dominic. When they separated, Zoe was still beaming. "There's just one problem. Even with the scholarship, there's still the materials fee and transportation costs. It's like $300. Maya's smile faltered slightly. "We'll figure it out. Maybe Eddie will let me pick up some extra shifts." "I can help," Dominic said quietly. Both Maya and Zoe turned to look at him, having almost forgotten his presence. "We don't need your help," Maya said firmly. Zoe looked between them, confused. Who is this?" Dominic extended his hand to Zoe. "Dominic Hale. I'm an acquaintance of your aunt's." Zoe's eyes widened again, this time with recognition. "Wait, Dominic Hale? As in Silvergate Holdings, Dominic Hale, the billionaire?" "Zoe, please," Maya said under her breath. "What? He's like super famous. We did a project on successful entrepreneurs in business class last semester." Zoe turned to Dominic with newfound interest. "How do you know my aunt?" Dominic glanced at Maya, clearly unsure how much to say. "Mr. Hale recently learned that your grandparents helped his sister during the accident," Maya explained carefully. Understanding dawned on Zoe's face. "Oh, the accident." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Dominic broke it by reaching for his wallet and placing several bills on the table, far more than his meal cost. "The scholarship sounds like a wonderful opportunity," he said to Zoe. "Congratulations." He stood, nodding to Maya. "Thank you for lunch, and please consider attending the dedication ceremony. It would mean a lot to the hospital staff. With that, he left, the bell jingling softly as the door closed behind him. Zoe immediately turned to Maya. "Okay, you have to tell me everything. Why is Dominic Hale eating lunch in our diner? And what was that about helping with the summer program?" Maya sighed, picking up his barely touched tuna melt. "It's a long story. And no, we're not taking his money. But Maya, no buts. We've managed on our own for 3 years. We're not about to become a Billionaire's charity case." But even as she said the words, Maya found herself thinking about the dedication ceremony. A wing named after her parents. A permanent recognition of their sacrifice. It was the kind of honor they deserved. Maybe, just maybe, she would go. Takil, the newly constructed Ellis Emergency Response Wing at Memorial Hospital, gleamed under bright lights. A small crowd had gathered for the dedication ceremony. Hospital staff, board members, local politicians, and a handful of reporters. Maya stood at the back, uncomfortable in her one good dress, Zoe beside her in a borrowed blazer. "I still can't believe they named a whole wing after Grandma and Grandpa," Zoe whispered, gazing at the large sign bearing the Ellis name. "I can't believe we're here," Maya replied, scanning the crowd for Dominic. She hadn't told him she was coming, half hoping she could slip in and out unnoticed. No such luck. She spotted him near the podium, deep in conversation with the hospital director. As if sensing her presence, he looked up, his eyes finding hers immediately across the crowded lobby. A smile, genuine, warm, spread across his face. He excused himself from the conversation and made his way toward them, several heads turning to watch his progress. "You came," he said simply when he reached them. "I came," Maya agreed. "For my parents. Not for you." Dominic nodded, accepting this. "Of course, and you must be Zoe." He offered his hand to her niece. "Maya's told me about your scholarship. Congratulations." Zoe shook his hand, suddenly shy. "Thank you. The ceremony is about to start. There are seats reserved for you in the front row if you'd like them." Maya hesitated. "I think we're fine back here." Dominic didn't push. "As you wish, but they will be recognizing you during the ceremony. The hospital director would like to present you with a plaque." Before Maya could protest, the microphone at the podium crackled to life, and the hospital director began welcoming everyone to the dedication. Maya listened with growing emotion as the director described the accident 3 years ago and the heroic actions of Elijah and Denise Ellis. When he invited her to the podium to accept a memorial plaque, she felt Zoe gently push her forward. With trembling legs, Maya walked to the front of the room. The plaque was heavy in her hands, the engraved names of her parents bringing tears to her eyes. She managed a brief thank you into the microphone before returning to Zoe's side. After the ceremony, several people approached to offer condolences and praise for her parents' bravery. Maya accepted their words graciously, but felt increasingly overwhelmed by the attention. "Would you like to see the actual wing?" Dominic appeared at her elbow, offering an escape from the crowd. Maya nodded gratefully. "Yes, please." He led her and Zoe down a corridor to the newly constructed area where state-of-the-art emergency equipment filled spacious treatment rooms. The donation included funding for advanced trauma training for the staff, Dominic explained as they walked, and a special program for first responders. Maya ran her fingers along the wall, where a large photograph of her parents had been mounted alongside a plaque describing their heroism. It was surreal seeing their smiling faces in this place, her father's kind eyes, her mother's warm smile. "Thank you for this," she said quietly to Dominic. "They would have been honored." "It's the least I could do," he replied. As they continued the tour, Maya found herself seeing a different side of Dominic Hale. He greeted hospital staff by name, asked thoughtful questions about the equipment, and listened intently to a nurse's explanation of new protocols, nothing like the cold, ruthless businessman portrayed in the media. When they reached the end of the tour, Zoe excused herself to use the restroom, leaving Maya and Dominic alone in the corridor. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a small envelope and handed it to her. Maya opened it cautiously to find a check for an amount that made her gasp. "What is this?" "The summer program fees for Zoe, plus some extra for materials and transportation." Maya immediately tried to hand it back. "I told you we don't need your charity." "It's not charity, Maya. It's a scholarship, in your parents' names. You can't just throw money at me and expect it to fix everything," she said, frustration rising. "Fix what?" Dominic asked, genuinely confused. "This." She gestured vaguely between them. "Whatever guilt you're carrying about your sister, about my parents, Money won't make it go away. Dominic's expression hardened. I'm not trying to buy absolution if that's what you think. Then what are you trying to do? Because ever since that night in your office, you've been hovering. The hospital wing showing up at my diner, now this check. What do you want from me? The question hung in the air between them, more accusation than inquiry. Dominic looked away, his jaw tightening. I don't know, he finally admitted, his voice low. When I saw you that night, it was like seeing a ghost. For 3 years, I've looked at that photograph, wondering about the family that saved my sister, grieving the fact that they died while she lived, only for her to die anyway. He met Maya's eyes again, and then suddenly there you were, real, alive. It felt like what? Like a second chance. To do something right, to honor your parents properly. He paused. To help their daughter, since I couldn't save my sister. The raw honesty in his voice caught Maya off guard. For the first time, she saw clearly what drove this man, not just guilt, but a profound sense of powerlessness. All his wealth, all his influence, and he couldn't save the person he loved most. My parents wouldn't want you to carry this burden, she said more gently, and neither would your sister. How would you know what Sophia would want? He asked, a defensive edge returning to his voice. Because I know what I would want. If I were her, I wouldn't want my brother destroying himself with guilt over something he couldn't control. Dominic fell silent, looking down at the check still in Maya's hand. Finally, he spoke again. Keep it. For Zoe. Not because I'm trying to ease my conscience, but because your parents' sacrifice deserves to be honored, and helping their granddaughter pursue her dreams seems like a fitting tribute. Before Maya could respond, Zoe returned, glancing curiously between them. Everything okay? She asked. Maya looked at the check, then at Dominic. She saw in his eyes not pity, not guilt, but something more complex. Respect, perhaps. Recognition of a shared loss that had shaped them both. Yes, she said finally, carefully folding the check and placing it in her purse. Everything's fine. As they left the hospital, Dominic walking them to the taxi stand, Maya felt something shift between them, an understanding, tentative but real. Whatever connection had brought them together, fate, coincidence, or the lingering echoes of a tragedy, it wasn't finished with them yet. 2 months after the hospital dedication, Maya found herself thinking about Dominic Hale more often than she cared to admit. Though she'd accepted the check for Zoe's art program, a part of her still felt uncomfortable with his generosity. It created an imbalance between them she couldn't quite reconcile. Earth to Maya, Vanessa said, waving a hand in front of her face. You're zoning out again. They were sitting in Maya's tiny kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, sharing a pizza while Zoe was at her first weekend art workshop. Sorry, Maya said, reaching for another slice. Just tired. Uh-huh. Vanessa gave her a knowing look. You were thinking about him again, weren't you? The billionaire. Maya rolled her eyes. His name is Dominic. And no, I wasn't. Liar. You get this little crease between your eyebrows whenever you think about him. Vanessa pointed to her own forehead. Right there. I do not. You absolutely do. Same look you used to get in college when you couldn't solve a problem. Vanessa took a sip of her soda. So what's the problem with Dominic that you're trying to solve? Maya sighed, giving up the pretense. I don't know what to make of him. The media portrays him as this cold, ruthless businessman, but the man I've met seems damaged somehow, lonely. Maybe he's both, Vanessa suggested. People are complicated. I know that. It's just, Maya struggled to articulate her thoughts. Sometimes I think he's using me and Zoe as some kind of redemption project, like helping us will somehow make up for not being able to save his sister. And that bothers you? Wouldn't it bother you? To be someone's path to absolution? Vanessa considered this. Maybe. But what if it's more than that? What if he genuinely cares? He doesn't even know me, Maya protested. He knows that you're the daughter of the people who tried to save his sister. That's a powerful connection. Vanessa paused. Have you seen him since the hospital dedication? Maya shook her head. No, just a thank you note I sent for Zoe's program, and he replied with a simple, you're welcome. Well, there you go. If he were using you as a redemption project, wouldn't he be more involved? Constantly checking in, throwing more money your way? Maya had to admit Vanessa had a point. Since the ceremony, Dominic had kept his distance, respecting her space in a way she hadn't expected. I guess I'm overthinking it, she conceded. You always do. Vanessa's tone softened. Maybe you should just talk to him again. Clear the air. What's the worst that could happen? Maya was saved from answering by the apartment door flying open as Zoe burst in, Her face flushed with excitement, an oversized portfolio case clutched to her chest. "Maya, Vanessa, you have to see what I made today," she exclaimed, dropping her backpack on the floor and carefully laying the portfolio on the table. She unzipped it with reverent fingers, pulling out a canvas covered in bold strokes of color that somehow formed a striking portrait of a woman's face, half in shadow, half in light. "Wow," Maya breathed, genuinely impressed. "Zoe, this is incredible." "It's my first time using acrylics," Zoe explained, pride evident in her voice. "The instructor said I have a natural talent for portraits." Vanessa whistled low. "She wasn't kidding. This is museum quality, girl." Zoe beamed, then noticed the pizza box. "Is there any left? I'm starving. Creating art works up an appetite." "2 slices saved just for you," Maya said, pushing the box toward her niece. "Tell us more about the workshop." As Zoe chattered excitedly about techniques and materials and the other students in the program, Maya felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. Despite everything they'd lost, despite the financial struggles and the grief that still sometimes ambushed them both, moments like this made life feel full and right. And if she was being completely honest with herself, part of that gratitude now extended to Dominic Hale, whose generosity had made this opportunity possible for Zoe. The following Tuesday, Maya found herself outside the imposing glass doors of Silvergate Tower, heart pounding. She'd taken Vanessa's advice and texted Dominic, asking if they could meet. His response had been immediate. "Of course. My office. Any time that works for you." She'd chosen her lunch break, telling herself it was the only time she could spare, but knowing it was also because a short meeting would be easier to escape if things became uncomfortable. The security guard at the front desk recognized her from the cleaning crew and looked confused when she requested a visitor's pass. "I have a meeting with Mr. Hale," she explained, trying to sound more confident than she felt. The guard's eyebrows shot up, but he made the call, and minutes later Maya was ascending in the executive elevator, stomach fluttering with nerves. When the doors opened directly into the reception area of Dominic's office suite, a sleek, professionally dressed assistant greeted her with a polite smile. "Ms. Ellis? Mr. Hale is expecting you. Please go right in." The corner office looked different in daylight. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, revealing a panoramic view of the city that took Maya's breath away. Dominic stood as she entered, coming around his desk to greet her. "Maya, it's good to see you." He gestured to a seating area near the windows. "Would you prefer to sit there? It's less formal than across the desk." She nodded, taking in his appearance. He looked tired, the dark circles under his eyes more pronounced than before, though his grey suit was as impeccable as ever. "How is Zoe enjoying the art program?" he asked once they were seated. "She loves it," Maya said, relaxing slightly at the mention of her niece. "She's really talented. The instructors have been giving her extra attention." "I'm glad to hear it." A slightly awkward silence fell between them. Maya took a deep breath, deciding to get straight to the point. "I wanted to thank you properly for the scholarship. It's making a huge difference for Zoe." "You already sent a thank you note," Dominic pointed out. "A very nice one, I might add." "I know, but I wanted to say it in person." Maya paused. "And I wanted to apologize for accusing you of trying to ease your conscience through us. That wasn't fair." Dominic's expression softened. "You weren't entirely wrong. I did feel a sense of obligation, but it's more complicated than that. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. This connection between us, it's strange, isn't it? Built on tragedy and coincidence." "Life is full of strange connections," Dominic said. "Sometimes they're the most meaningful ones." Maya studied him, trying to see past the polished exterior to the man beneath. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You can ask. I might not answer." "Fair enough." She leaned forward slightly. "That night, in this office, when I found you with my photograph, what were you really thinking? Before you saw me, I mean." Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his gaze drifting to the window. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, more raw than she'd heard before. "I was thinking about choices, the ones we make, the ones made for us, how a single moment can change everything." He looked back at her. "That night on the highway, your parents chose to stop and help a stranger. Sophia chose to drive herself home instead of calling a car service like I'd asked her to. The drunk driver chose to get behind the wheel." He ran a hand through his hair, a rare crack in his composed demeanor. 3 years later, and I still find myself wondering, what if just one of those choices had been different? The vulnerability in his admission caught Maya off guard. It was one thing to suspect he carried this guilt, another to hear him voice it so plainly. My parents wouldn't regret their choice, she said softly, not even knowing the outcome. How can you be so sure? Because I knew them. They always taught me that helping others wasn't optional. It was who we were as a family. Maya smiled sadly. My dad used to say, the right thing and the easy thing are rarely the same thing. Something flickered in Dominic's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. Sophia used to say something similar. That integrity wasn't about the big moments, but the small choices you make when no one's watching. She sounds like she was a remarkable person. She was. Dominic's voice grew quieter. Nothing like me. What do you mean? He gestured around the opulent office. All this, the company, the wealth, the power, I built it by being ruthless, by putting profit above people more times than I can count. A bitter smile crossed his lips. Sophia used to challenge me about it constantly. Said I was losing my soul one business deal at a time. Maya wasn't sure how to respond. The honesty of his self-assessment was disarming. Is that why you helped us? She asked. Because it's what Sophia would have wanted. Partly, he admitted. But also because when I saw you that night standing in my office door, the daughter of the people who sacrificed everything for my sister, it felt like, he hesitated. Like what? Like a wake-up call. A chance to be the person Sophia always believed I could be. The simplicity of his answer, the absence of pretense, touched something in Maya. For the first time, she saw beyond the billionaire, beyond the grief and guilt, to the man struggling to find meaning in the wake of loss, just as she had been for the past 3 years. I should go, she said, glancing at her watch. My lunch break is almost over. Dominic nodded, rising as she did. Thank you for coming, and for hearing me out. At the door, Maya paused. Would you like to come to dinner sometime? Nothing fancy, just at our apartment. To meet Zoe properly. She's been curious about you. The invitation surprised them both. Dominic looked genuinely taken aback. I'd like that, he said after a moment. Very much. Friday? Around 7. Friday at 7, he confirmed. As Maya rode the elevator down to the lobby, she wondered what had possessed her to invite Dominic Hale to their tiny apartment for dinner. The man probably ate at 5-star restaurants every night. What would he think of their cramped space, their mismatched dishes, their simple food? But then she remembered the look in his eyes when he spoke of his sister, the raw pain, the loneliness. And she knew that whatever his public persona might be, the private man needed exactly what she and Zoe could offer. A genuine connection, free from the expectations of wealth and status. Whether that was a good idea or not, remained to be seen. Cass, he's coming here. Zoe's voice rose in pitch as she gestured around their small apartment. But it's so normal? Maya suggested, amused by her niece's panic. Small and not fancy at all. He probably lives in a penthouse with like gold toilets or something. Maya laughed. I doubt he has gold toilets. And anyway, he knows we're not rich. He's not expecting anything elaborate. It was Friday afternoon, and they were preparing for Dominic's visit. Zoe had been oscillating between excitement and terror since Maya had mentioned the dinner invitation. What are we even going to talk about? Zoe groaned, flopping onto the couch. What do billionaires discuss at dinner? The stock market? Yacht maintenance? How about art? Maya suggested, putting the finishing touches on the table. Your art, specifically. He's the one who made the summer program possible, remember? Zoe sat up straighter. That's true. And I did just finish that new piece. Perfect, you can show him. Now help me finish setting the table, please. By 6:50, the apartment smelled deliciously of Maya's signature dish, her mother's recipe for jerk chicken with rice and peas, with a side of roasted vegetables. The table was set with their nicest plates, which still didn't match, and Zoe had arranged a small vase of flowers as a centerpiece. At exactly 7 o'clock, the buzzer rang. Maya took a deep breath, suddenly nervous, and pressed the intercom. Hello, it's Dominic, came the reply. Come on up, 3rd floor, apartment 3B. A few minutes later, a knock sounded at their door. Maya opened it to find Dominic standing there in dark jeans and a simple navy sweater, looking far more casual than she'd ever seen him. In one hand, he held a bottle of wine, in the other, a colorfully wrapped package. I wasn't sure what to bring, he said, offering the wine. I hope this is appropriate. It's perfect, thank you. Maya stepped aside to let him in. Welcome to our home. Dominic entered, his eyes taking in the small but neat living room with its worn furniture and walls covered in framed photographs and Zoe's artwork. You have a lovely place, he said, and to Maya's surprise, he sounded sincere. Zoe appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands nervously on her jeans. Hi, Mr. Hale. Please call me Dominic. He extended the wrapped package. "This is for you, a small token of appreciation for the invitation." Zoe took the gift, eyes wide. "Can I open it now?" At Dominic's nod, she tore into the wrapping paper, revealing a sleek wooden box. She opened it to find a set of professional-grade acrylic paints, brushes, and tools. These are the expensive ones," she breathed, running her fingers reverently over the brushes. "The kind professional artists use." "The instructor at your program mentioned you had a particular talent with acrylics," Dominic explained. "I hope these will be useful." "How did you talk to my instructor?" Zoe asked, looking up from the box. "I called the program director," Dominic admitted. "I hope that wasn't overstepping." Zoe shook her head, still staring at the paints. "No, this is... thank you. Really." Maya watched the exchange with mixed emotions. The gift was thoughtful, not flashy or excessive. But the ease with which Dominic had reached out to the program director, a simple phone call that his name had undoubtedly made possible, was a reminder of the power he wielded so effortlessly. "Dinner's ready," she said, gesturing toward the table. "I hope you like Caribbean food." "I do very much," Dominic replied, following her to the small dining area. The meal began with a slight awkwardness, but soon Zoe's natural exuberance broke through as she told Dominic about her art projects and her ideas for the future. "I want to study art therapy in college," she explained, helping herself to more vegetables. "Like Maya was doing before everything happened." A shadow crossed Maya's face, quickly hidden. "Zoe has a real talent for connecting with people through art. She'd be wonderful at it." "Art therapy?" Dominic looked interested. "I'm not familiar with the field. It uses art to help people process trauma or emotional issues," Maya explained. "Drawing, painting, sculpture. Creating art can unlock feelings people can't always express in words." "That sounds invaluable," Dominic said, "especially for children or those who have experienced significant trauma." "Exactly." Maya found herself warming to the topic. "I was halfway through my master's program when my parents died. After that, with Zoe to care for and the medical bills, well, dreams had to be put on hold." The words slipped out before she could stop them, more revealing than she'd intended. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. "I'm sorry," Dominic said quietly. "About your studies, I mean. It sounds like you were passionate about the field." Maya shrugged, trying to keep her tone light. "Life happens. You adapt. Still, to have a calling like that, it's rare." Zoe looked between them, then jumped up. "I just remembered. I want to show you my latest painting. It's in my room." She disappeared down the short hallway, leaving Maya and Dominic alone at the table. "She's remarkable," Dominic said. "So focused for someone her age." "She's had to grow up fast," Maya replied. "But yes, she amazes me every day." Another silence fell, more comfortable than the last. Maya found herself studying Dominic's face in the warm light of their dining room. Away from his office, dressed in casual clothes, he seemed more human somehow. Less the imposing business titan, more a man with the same capacity for joy and pain as anyone else. "Can I ask you something?" she said suddenly. "Of course. Are you happy? With your life, I mean." The question seemed to catch him off guard. He set down his fork, considering his answer. "I'm successful," he said finally. "By most metrics, that matter in my world. The company is thriving. How a stock price keeps climbing. I have more money than I could spend in several lifetimes." "That's not what I asked." Dominic met her gaze. "No, it's not." He paused. "Honestly, I don't know if I remember what happiness feels like. Not since Sophia died." The raw honesty of his answer created a sudden intimacy between them. Before Maya could respond, Zoe returned, carrying a canvas covered with a cloth. "This is my newest piece," she announced, setting it on a chair and removing the cloth with a flourish. The painting was a portrait, Dominic realized with a start, of Maya, but not as she appeared now. This was Maya, as she might have been in another life, confident, joyful, fulfilled. The background suggested a therapy office with a child painting at an easel nearby. "It's called The Path Not Taken," Zoe explained. "It's Maya as she would have been if she'd finished her degree." Maya stared at the portrait, emotion welling in her throat. "Zoe, when did you do this?" "Last weekend. Do you like it?" "It's beautiful," Maya whispered, "and a little heartbreaking." Dominic stood to examine the painting more closely. "The technique is extraordinary," he said. "The emotion in her eyes, you've captured something essential." Zoe beamed at the praise. "Thank you. I'm still learning, but this one felt special." The evening continued with dessert, a simple apple crisp that Maya had baked that afternoon, and more conversation. As the night wore on, Maya was surprised to find herself enjoying Dominic's company. Behind the wealth and power was a thoughtful, intelligent man with a dry sense of humor that emerged more as he relaxed. When it was time for him to leave, Zoe had already gone to bed, exhausted from the excitement of the evening. "Thank you for dinner," Dominic said, as Maya walked him to the door. "It was the best meal I've had in a long time. Better than all those fancy restaurants. I find that hard to believe. The food in those places is designed to impress, not nourish," he said. Tonight felt real. Maya nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "Well, you're welcome anytime. Zoe adores you now, you know. Those paints were the perfect gift. She's a special young woman. You've done an amazing job with her." "We've done an amazing job with each other," Maya corrected gently. At the door, Dominic turned to face her. "May I ask you something now, since you asked me earlier?" "Fair's fair. The painting Zoe did, the path not taken. Do you ever think about going back, finishing your degree?" Maya sighed. "All the time. But it's not practical. The tuition alone would be thousands, not to mention living expenses while I studied. And Zoe needs stability right now." Dominic nodded, not pushing further. "Of course I understand. Do you?" The question wasn't challenging, just curious. "More than you might think." He paused. "Good night, Maya. Thank you again for including me in your home." After he left, Maya stood at the window, watching as a sleek black car pulled up to the curb below. Dominic emerged from their building, said something to the driver, then slid into the back seat. The car pulled away smoothly, disappearing around the corner. Two worlds, she thought. So different, and yet for one evening they had overlapped in this small apartment, over a simple meal and honest conversation. She turned away from the window, moving to clear the table, when her phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Dominic. "Forgot to mention, Zoe's portrait is museum quality. If she's interested in showing her work, I know several gallery owners who would be impressed. No pressure, just an option. Sleep well." Maya smiled, shaking her head at his inability to stop helping even for one night. But this time the offer didn't feel like charity or guilt. It felt like genuine appreciation for Zoe's talent. Maybe that was progress. The following weeks brought unexpected changes to Maya's life. Dominic became a regular visitor to their apartment, joining them for dinner at least once a week. Each time he arrived dressed casually, bringing thoughtful but never extravagant gifts. Art books for Zoe, a potted herb plant for Maya's kitchen windowsill, tickets to a community theater production they'd mentioned wanting to see. True to his word, he had introduced Zoe to a gallery owner who specialized in emerging artists, resulting in an invitation for her to include 2 pieces in an upcoming student showcase. The excitement had consumed their household for days, with Zoe working feverishly to perfect her submissions. But as Dominic's presence in their lives grew, so did the complications. Maya found herself increasingly aware of the vast differences in their circumstances, differences that no amount of casual dinners could erase. It was a rainy Saturday morning when reality intruded in the form of a letter from Memorial Hospital. Maya opened it at the kitchen table, expecting another bill. They were still paying off her father's final treatments, but instead found a notice about an upcoming charity gala honoring donors to the Ellis Emergency Response Wing. As a family member, she was invited to attend as a special guest. The letter mentioned that Dominic Hale would be receiving an award for his contribution, and they hoped she would be present for the ceremony. Maya set the letter down, troubled. A charity gala meant formal attire, fancy food, important people, a world where she would be visibly out of place. She was still staring at the invitation when her phone rang. It was Vanessa. "Hey, you busy? I'm in your neighborhood and could use a coffee break." 20 minutes later, they were seated in a small cafe down the street from Maya's apartment, rain pattering against the windows. "So he's coming over for dinner regularly now?" Vanessa asked after Maya had filled her in on the developments with Dominic. "That's interesting." "It's not like that," Maya insisted. "He's just being kind." "And does he bring wine every time?" "Yes, and does he look at you like you're the most fascinating person he's ever met?" Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. "You're reading too much into this. We have a connection because of my parents and his sister. That's all." "If you say so." Vanessa took a sip of her latte. "But just to be clear, the insanely handsome billionaire who could date literally anyone is choosing to spend his Friday nights eating home-cooked meals in your tiny apartment because of, what, obligation?" "Maybe he's just tired of the fakeness in his world," Maya suggested. "He said our dinners feel real." "Oh, honey." Vanessa's expression softened with sympathy. Be careful. Men like that. They can vacation in our world, but they don't stay. Maya bristled slightly. What do you mean, men like that? You know exactly what I mean. Wealthy, powerful men who are used to getting whatever they want. They might find someone like you refreshing for a while. Authentic, unpretentious, not after their money. But eventually they go back to their penthouses and private jets and women who fit into their lifestyle. You're making a lot of assumptions, Maya said, though Vanessa's words had struck a nerve. Dominic isn't like that. No? Vanessa raised an eyebrow. Has he invited you into his world, or is he just visiting yours? Maya thought of the charity gala invitation sitting on her kitchen table. Actually, there is an event at the hospital. He's receiving an award and I've been invited. Perfect. What are you wearing? The question highlighted exactly what had been bothering Maya. I have no idea. I don't exactly have gala-appropriate clothing. And before you suggest it, no, I'm not asking him to buy me a dress. Rent one, Vanessa said simply. There are services for that now. Designer dresses at a fraction of the cost. Still expensive. I'll help, Vanessa offered. Consider it an investment in your future. My future what exactly? Vanessa just smiled. Let's just say, I have a feeling about you and Mr. Tall, Dark and Wealthy. Maya rolled her eyes, but couldn't completely dismiss the flutter in her stomach at the thought of attending a formal event with Dominic. Would he be different there, in his natural environment? Would she see the cold, ruthless businessman the media portrayed? And more troubling, why did the possibility make her heart race? The evening of the gala arrived with a mixture of excitement and dread. Maya stood in front of the mirror in her bedroom, hardly recognizing herself in the deep blue gown Vanessa had helped her select. The rental had cost more than she'd wanted to spend, but the moment she'd tried it on, even she had to admit it was perfect. Elegant without being flashy, flattering to her figure without being revealing. Wow, Zoe said from the doorway, eyes wide. You look like a princess. Maya laughed nervously. I feel more like Cinderella before midnight. Afraid this is all going to disappear. Are you nervous about seeing Dominic all dressed up? Zoe asked with the directness of a teenager. Because he's seen you in your cleaning uniform, so anything's an upgrade. Thanks for the reminder, Maya said dryly. And no, I'm not nervous about that. I'm nervous about being in a room full of wealthy donors who probably spend more on lunch than we do on rent. Just remember you're there because your parents were heroes, Zoe said. That makes you more important than anyone with just money, Maya smiled, touched by her niece's perspective. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just haven't been paying attention. The buzzer rang, signaling Dominic's arrival. He'd insisted on picking her up, though Maya had initially suggested meeting him there. You ready? Zoe asked. Your carriage awaits. Maya took one last look in the mirror, adjusted the simple silver necklace at her throat, her mother's one of the few pieces of jewelry she'd kept, and nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. When she opened the apartment door, Dominic stood in the hallway in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his dark hair swept back, looking every inch the powerful billionaire he was. For a moment, neither of them spoke, each taking in the other's transformed appearance. You look beautiful, he said finally, his voice low. Thank you, Maya replied, suddenly shy. You clean up pretty well yourself? Behind her, Zoe rolled her eyes dramatically. You both look amazing. Now go before you're late. Dominic smiled at Zoe. We won't be too late. Your aunt will be home by midnight. Cinderella reference? Maya asked, as they walked toward the elevator. Zoe just made the same joke. Great minds, Dominic replied, then added more seriously, though I assure you nothing will disappear at midnight. The car waiting outside was not the sleek black sedan Maya had expected, but a vintage Rolls-Royce, gleaming silver in the evening light. Is this yours? She asked, as a uniformed driver opened the door for them. Borrowed for the occasion, Dominic admitted. I thought you might enjoy the classic luxury for your first gala. The interior was all buttery leather and polished wood. As they pulled away from the curb, Maya felt as though she'd stepped into another world, one where beauty and comfort were effortless, assumed rather than aspired to. Nervous? Dominic asked, noticing her fingers fidgeting with her small clutch purse. A little, she confessed. I've never been to anything like this. Just remember, most of these people are more impressed by who you are than what you have. The daughter of Elijah and Denise Ellis carries more weight in that room than any bank account. His words echoed Zoe's so closely that Maya had to smile. That's almost exactly what Zoe told me. Smart young woman, Dominic said. She gets that from you. The compliment warmed her, easing some of her tension. As they drove through the city toward Memorial Hospital, where the gala was being held in a specially constructed tent on the grounds, Maya allowed herself to relax into the moment. The hospital campus had been transformed, twinkling lights illuminated the pathways, and the large white tent glowed from within. As they approached the entrance, Maya saw photographers lining the small red carpet that had been laid out. "There's press?" she asked, anxiety returning full force. "Just local media," Dominic assured her. "Hospital galas are good human interest stories. We can bypass them if you prefer." But it was too late. Someone had spotted Dominic, and a small flurry of activity erupted as photographers positioned themselves. "Mr. Hale, over here," one called out as they exited the car. Dominic placed a gentle hand at the small of Maya's back, guiding her forward. "Just smile and keep walking," he murmured. "They're not interested in us, just the photo op." Maya nodded, forcing a smile as camera flashes popped around them. The moment seemed to stretch forever, but in reality lasted only seconds before they were through the gauntlet and entering the tent. Inside, the space had been transformed into an elegant ballroom, with crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, round tables draped in white linen, and a small orchestra playing soft music in the corner. Well-dressed guests mingled, champagne glasses in hand. "Breathe," Dominic whispered, as he felt Maya tense beside him. "You belong here as much as anyone." A waiter approached with a tray of champagne flutes. Dominic took two, handing one to Maya. "To new experiences," he said, clinking his glass gently against hers. Maya took a small sip, the bubbles tickling her nose. "It's beautiful," she admitted, looking around the room. "Like something from a movie." "Wait until you see the hospital director try to dance after his third scotch," Dominic said with a wink. "That's when it really gets entertaining." His attempt to make her laugh worked, and Maya felt some of her nervousness dissipate. As they moved through the crowd, Dominic introduced her to various people, hospital board members, donors, medical staff. To her surprise, many of them knew who she was immediately. "Ms. Ellis, it's an honor to meet you," said an older woman in an elegant black gown. "Your parents' story has inspired so many of our donors. The new emergency protocols we've implemented because of their actions have already saved lives." Maya blinked back sudden tears. "Thank you." That would have meant everything to them. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself drawn into conversations about the hospital's work, about her parents, about her own background in art therapy. People listened with genuine interest, asked thoughtful questions, treated her with respect that had nothing to do with her borrowed dress or her connection to Dominic. During dinner, they were seated at the head table with the hospital's leadership. The food was exquisite, the wine perfectly paired with each course. Maya observed Dominic in this setting, confident, charming, completely at ease. Yet she noticed how his public smile never quite reached his eyes, how there was a reserve to him that disappeared when they were alone in her apartment. After the meal came the awards presentation. The hospital director spoke eloquently about the donors being honored, saving Dominic for last. "And finally, we recognize Dominic Hale, whose extraordinary generosity made the Ellis Emergency Response Wing possible. His contribution not only built a state-of-the-art facility, but established training programs that will save countless lives in the years to come." Applause filled the tent as Dominic rose and walked to the podium. He accepted the Crystal Award with a gracious nod, then turned to address the audience. "Thank you for this recognition, though it's not one I deserve," he began, his voice clear and strong. "The true heroes we honor tonight are Elijah and Denise Ellis, who didn't hesitate to stop and help a stranger in danger, even at risk to themselves." He paused, his gaze finding Maya at the table. "Their daughter, Maya Ellis, is with us tonight. Maya, would you stand for a moment?" Startled, Maya rose to her feet as the spotlight found her. The spotlight felt hot on Maya's face as she stood, heart pounding. Every eye in the room turned toward her, and for a moment, she wished the polished floor would open and swallow her whole. "3 years ago," Dominic continued from the podium, "the Ellis family made a choice that saved my sister's life, at the ultimate cost to themselves. Their sacrifice reminds us that true wealth isn't measured in dollars or assets, but in the courage to do what's right, even when it's difficult." His eyes held Maya's across the room, and in that moment something passed between them, an understanding, a connection deeper than either had acknowledged before. "So while I accept this award with gratitude," Dominic said, returning his attention to the audience, "I do so on behalf of the Ellis family, whose legacy of compassion and selflessness will continue to inspire all who walk through the doors of the wing that bears their name." The applause that followed was thunderous. Maya sank back into her chair, overwhelmed by the public recognition and the emotion in Dominic's voice. The rest of the ceremony passed in a blur. When it concluded, guests moved to the dance floor as the orchestra began playing again. Maya excused herself, needing a moment alone. She found a quiet spot near the edge of the tent, where cool evening air slipped through a gap in the fabric. "Too much?" Dominic's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him watching her with concern. "A little," she admitted. "I wasn't expecting to be put in the spotlight like that." "I'm sorry," he said, and he seemed genuinely contrite. "I should have warned you. I just thought these people needed to see you, to know that the Ellis name isn't just letters on a building. I understand, it just felt strange being singled out for something my parents did." She wrapped her arms around herself, despite the warmth of the evening. "They're the ones who should be here receiving the recognition." Dominic moved closer, his voice softening. "They are here, Maya. In you. In everything you do to keep their legacy alive." The simple words broke something open inside her, a dam of emotion she'd been holding back all evening. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she said, brushing them away quickly. "I don't mean to ruin your big night." "You couldn't possibly ruin anything," he said gently. He hesitated, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a handkerchief, offering it to her. "Here." Maya accepted it with a small smile. "A real handkerchief? Who even carries these anymore?" "My father insisted that a gentleman always carries one," Dominic said with a slight shrug. "Some habits stick." As Maya dabbed at her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup, the orchestra inside began playing a slow, melodic tune. "Would you like to dance?" Dominic asked suddenly. "Or would that be too much too?" Maya looked up at him, surprised by the invitation. "I haven't danced in, I can't remember how long. Neither have I, to be honest." He extended his hand. "We can be rusty together." There was something vulnerable in the gesture, the powerful Dominic Hale admitting imperfection, offering connection. Maya found herself placing her hand in his before she could overthink it. He led her back inside to the dance floor, where other couples were already swaying to the music. With gentle confidence, he placed one hand at her waist, holding her other hand in his. They began to move slowly, finding a rhythm together. "See? Not so terrible," he said softly. Maya relaxed into the dance, surprised by how natural it felt to be in his arms. "You're better than you let on. My mother insisted on lessons when I was younger. I complained bitterly at the time. And now? Now I'm grateful," he said, his eyes warm as they met hers. As they danced, Maya became acutely aware of their physical closeness, the light pressure of his hand at her waist, the subtle scent of his cologne, the way their bodies moved in sync. The sensation was both thrilling and unsettling. "People are watching us," she murmured, noticing the curious glances from other guests. "Let them," Dominic replied. "I'm only concerned with the person in my arms." The word sent a flutter through Maya's chest. This was dangerous territory, she realized. The champagne, the glamorous setting, the emotional evening, it was all creating a fantasy that couldn't last beyond this night. The music ended too soon, and they stepped apart. Dominic's hand lingered on hers for a moment longer than necessary before releasing it. "Thank you for the dance," he said formally, though his eyes conveyed something far less formal. Maya was saved from responding by the approach of the hospital director, who wanted to introduce Dominic to another potential donor. With an apologetic smile, Dominic excused himself, leaving Maya alone on the edge of the dance floor. She made her way back to their table, her mind swirling with confused emotions. What was happening between them? Was she imagining the connection, the tension, the moments when his guard seemed to drop completely? "You two make quite the striking couple," a woman's voice intruded on her thoughts. Maya looked up to see an elegantly dressed older woman sliding into the seat beside her. "Oh, we're not... Mr. Hale and I aren't a couple," Maya stammered. The woman smiled knowingly. "Perhaps not officially, but I've known Dominic since he was a boy, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you." "And how is that?" Maya couldn't help asking. "Like you're the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life." Before Maya could process this assessment, the woman patted her hand and rose. "He deserves happiness, you know. After everything with Sophia, well, it's been a long road back for him." As the woman walked away, Maya felt a new weight settle on her shoulders. The evening that had started as an intimidating foray into Dominic's world had somehow shifted into something far more complex. By the time Dominic returned to their table, Maya had composed herself. "I think I should head home soon," she said. "It's getting late and I'm a bit overwhelmed." Concern immediately crossed his face. "Of course, I'll have the car brought around." The drive back to her apartment was quiet, both lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, Dominic insisted on walking her to her door, just as he did after their dinner evenings. Outside her apartment, Maya turned to face him. "Thank you for tonight. It was, illuminating." "Illuminating," Dominic repeated, a slight crease appearing between his brows. "That's an interesting choice of word. I saw a different side of you tonight," Maya explained. "The public Dominic Hale, the one who commands rooms, accepts awards, charms donors. And what did you think of him?" Maya considered her answer carefully. "He's impressive, polished, everything the magazines say." She paused. "But I prefer the Dominic who eats my cooking at my scratched kitchen table and tells terrible dad jokes to make Zoe laugh." Something shifted in Dominic's expression, a softening, a rare moment of complete openness. "That's the first honest compliment I've received in years." They stood there, the air between them charged with unspoken feelings. Maya knew she should say goodnight, step back, unlock her door, but she couldn't seem to move, caught in the gravity of his gaze. Dominic took a half step closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him. "Maya, The door behind them suddenly swung open, revealing Zoe in pajamas, her hair wrapped in a towel. "Finally!" she exclaimed. "I've been waiting up forever. How was it? Was it fancy? Did they have those little appetizers that—" She stopped, registering the tension she'd interrupted. "Oh, sorry. Am I interrupting something?" "Not at all," Dominic said smoothly, stepping back. "I was just saying goodnight." "Well, don't let me stop you," Zoe said, her eyes darting between them with teenage perception. Maya cleared her throat. "Good night, Dominic. Thank you again for everything." "The pleasure was mine," he replied formally. "Good night, Maya." "Good night, Zoe." As he walked away down the hallway, Zoe grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her into the apartment, closing the door behind them. "What was that?" she demanded. "You two looked like you were about to kiss." "Zoe," Maya gasped. "That's ridiculous. We were just saying goodnight." "Uh-huh. With your faces like 2 inches apart. I know what I saw." Zoe flopped onto the couch. "So are you guys a thing now?" "No, we are not a thing," Maya insisted, kicking off her uncomfortable heels with relief. "We're friends, that's all." "Friends don't look at each other the way he looks at you," Zoe observed. "And don't think I haven't noticed how you perk up whenever he's coming over." Maya sighed, too tired to argue. "It's complicated, Zoe. Even if there were feelings, our worlds are too different." "That's just an excuse people use when they're scared," Zoe replied with the brutal honesty of youth. "Anyway, you're avoiding my questions about the gala. Was it amazing? Did you feel like a princess? Did they have those tiny fancy foods?" Grateful for the change of subject, Maya spent the next hour recounting the details of the evening, carefully editing out the more personal moments with Dominic. By the time she finally crawled into bed, exhaustion had overtaken her, but sleep remained elusive. The woman's words from the gala kept repeating in her mind. "Like you're the answer to a question he's been asking his whole life." What question was Dominic Hale asking? And was she truly the answer, or just a temporary distraction from his grief and guilt? More troubling still, why did she care so much about the answer? The morning after the gala, Maya woke to a text message from Dominic. "Hope you slept well. Thank you for making last night special. There's a package being delivered to you this afternoon. Nothing extravagant, just a small token of appreciation." Maya groaned, dropping her phone on the bed. Now what? Another gift? More evidence of their vastly different resources? Her worries proved unfounded when the package arrived. A simple framed photograph of her parents from the hospital archives, one she'd never seen before. They were at a community health fair, smiling as they handed out information on preventive care. A small note accompanied it. "Thought you might like to have this." The archivist found it while gathering materials for the dedication. The thoughtfulness of the gift moved her deeply. That evening she texted back, "Thank you. It's perfect." Their regular dinners continued in the weeks that followed, but something had shifted since the gala. There was a new awareness between them, an unspoken tension that manifested in lingering glances and careful maintenance of physical distance. Maya told herself it was for the best. Her relationship with Dominic Hale would be doomed from the start, not just because of their different backgrounds, but because of the complicated foundation on which their connection was built. Grief, guilt, obligation, hardly the basis for something healthy and lasting. But her heart wasn't listening to her logical arguments. It was a Wednesday afternoon at the diner when Vanessa stopped by during her break, sliding into a booth in Maya's section. "How you look terrible," she announced by way of greeting. "Thanks," Maya replied dryly, setting down a glass of water. Just what every woman wants to hear. I mean, you look tired, troubled. Vanessa studied her face. Is it the billionaire? Maya glanced around to make sure no customers needed her attention, then slid into the booth across from her friend. Is it that obvious? Only to someone who knows you as well as I do. Vanessa leaned forward. What happened? Did he do something? No, he's been perfect, that's the problem. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. You've lost me. Maya sighed, struggling to articulate her confusion. The night of the gala, something changed. I don't know what we almost did, but ever since then there's been this tension. Sexual tension? Vanessa suggested bluntly. No, well, maybe partially, but it's more than that. Maya traced a water ring on the table with her finger. It's like we both know there's something between us, but neither of us is willing to acknowledge it. Why not? Because it's complicated. Because he's still dealing with guilt over his sister, and I'm still grieving my parents, and our worlds couldn't be more different. All relationships have complications, Vanessa pointed out. The question is whether what you feel for each other is strong enough to overcome them. I don't even know what I feel, Maya admitted, or what he feels for that matter. Then maybe it's time to find out, Vanessa suggested. Ask him, be direct. The thought made Maya's stomach twist with anxiety. And risk ruining what we have now? He's become important to Zoe, to both of us. And you think pretending these feelings don't exist is less risky? Vanessa shook her head. That's how relationships implode, Maya, through things left unsaid. Maya was saved from responding by a customer waving for service. I have to get back to work, she said, sliding out of the booth, but I'll think about what you said. The opportunity to follow Vanessa's advice came sooner than expected. That Friday, during their usual dinner at Maya's apartment, Zoe announced she was spending the night at a friend's house to work on a school project. Her mum's already here to pick me up, she said, hefting her backpack. Is that okay? Of course, Maya replied, though she felt a flutter of nervousness at the thought of being alone with Dominic for the evening. Just text me when you get there. After Zoe left, an awkward silence fell over the apartment. Maya busied herself clearing the dinner dishes, acutely aware of Dominic's presence at the table behind her. Can I help? He asked, rising from his chair. No, I've got it, she said quickly. There's coffee if you want some. Dominic poured himself a cup, then leaned against the counter, watching her. Is everything okay, Maya? You seem distracted tonight. She set down the plate she was rinsing, deciding to take Vanessa's advice. Actually, there is something on my mind. Something I think we need to talk about. I'm listening. Maya dried her hands on a dish towel, buying herself a few more seconds. Since the gala, things have felt different between us. At least to me. Dominic's expression remained carefully neutral. Different how? You know how, she said softly. Something's changed. Or maybe it was always there, and we're just finally admitting it. He set down his coffee cup, his composure slipping just enough for Maya to see the emotion beneath. You're right, he acknowledged. There has been a shift. So what do we do about it? Dominic took a step toward her, then stopped, as if holding himself back. What do you want to do about it? I don't know, Maya admitted. That's the truth. You've become important to me, to Zoe too, but I can't help feeling that anything beyond friendship between us would be complicated because of our different worlds. Partly, and partly because of how we met, why we're connected. She looked up at him. I don't want to be your redemption project, Dominic. He flinched slightly at her words. Is that what you think this is? That I see you as some kind of penance? No, she said quickly. Not anymore, but in the beginning. Can you honestly say there wasn't an element of that? Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. In the beginning, yes. There was guilt motivating me, he finally admitted. A need to make amends somehow, but Maya, that changed a long time ago. When? She asked. When did it change? The first night I had dinner here, he said without hesitation. Watching you with Zoe, seeing the life you've built despite everything you've lost. I stopped thinking about what I owed you and started seeing who you are. The honesty in his voice, the intensity in his eyes, made Maya's heart race. He took another step toward her, close enough now that she could feel the warmth of him. I've spent 3 years defined by grief and guilt, Dominic continued, building walls, going through the motions of living. And then you walked into my office that night, and something woke up inside me, something I thought had died with Sophia. What? Maya whispered, though she already knew the answer. Hope, he said simply. The possibility of joy. A future that isn't just about atoning for the past. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand in his. I care about you, Maya. Not because of who your parents were or what they did for my sister. I care about you because you're extraordinary, resilient, compassionate, fiercely protective of those you love. Maya felt tears gathering, but refused to let them fall. I care about you too, she admitted. But I'm scared, Dominic. Scared that what we feel isn't real or that it can't last. Our lives are so different. They don't have to be, he said softly. The implication of his words hung in the air between them. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed loudly on the counter, a text from Zoe confirming she'd arrived safely at her friend's house. The interruption broke the spell of the moment. Maya stepped back, needing space to think clearly. It's getting late, she said. Though it wasn't, not really. Maybe we should call it a night. Disappointment flickered across Dominic's face, but he nodded. Of course. As he gathered his jacket, Maya struggled with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted him to stay, to continue their conversation, to see where this connection between them might lead. Another part, the cautious, protective part, warned her to slow down, to think carefully before risking her heart. At the door, Dominic turned to face her. I meant what I said, Maya. All of it. I know, she replied. I just need time to process everything. Take all the time you need, he said gently. I'm not going anywhere. After he left, Maya curled up on the couch, replaying their conversation. For the first time, Dominic had spoken plainly about his feelings for her. No more hiding behind gratitude or obligation, and she had admitted her own feelings, even while expressing her doubts. It was progress, she supposed. Terrifying, exhilarating progress. Saturday was the following Monday. Maya arrived at the diner for her afternoon shift to find Eddie, the owner, waiting for her with an unusual expression, part concern, part excitement. There you are, he said, beckoning her to the back office. Got something to show you. Puzzled, Maya followed him. On his cluttered desk lay a newspaper, folded open to the society pages. Eddie pointed to a photograph that made Maya's stomach drop. There she was in her blue gown, dancing with Dominic at the hospital gala. The caption read, Silvergate CEO Dominic Hale and Maya Ellis, daughter of Memorial Hospital heroes, share a dance at charity event. You're famous, Eddie teased. Dancing with billionaires now, huh? Maya stared at the photograph, mortified. It was just a dance, Eddie. Uh-huh. Eddie didn't look convinced. Well, heads up. Some reporter called here asking for you. I told them you don't talk to press during work hours. Reporter? Why would a reporter care about me? Eddie shrugged. Slow news day? Or maybe they think there's a story between you and Mr. Moneybags. Maya groaned inwardly. This was exactly what she didn't need. Public speculation about her relationship with Dominic. It would only complicate things further. Thanks for the warning, she said, and for running interference. No problem. Just don't forget us little people when you're living in your penthouse, Eddie joked. Maya forced a smile, though the comment stung. Was that how people would see her now? As someone trying to climb the social ladder through Dominic? Her shift passed in a fog of distraction. Twice she mixed up orders, something she rarely did. When her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic asking if she'd seen the newspaper, she ignored it, needing time to sort through her feelings. But by the end of her shift, another text arrived that she couldn't ignore. Maya, call me when you can. Something's happened with Zoe. Heart pounding, she called immediately. What's wrong? She demanded, as soon as Dominic answered. Is Zoe okay? She's fine, he assured her quickly. I'm sorry for alarming you. It's about her art. The gallery's showing. There's been an unexpected development. Relief flooded through Maya, followed by irritation. You scared me half to death. I apologize, Dominic said, sounding genuinely contrite, but I thought you'd want to know right away. The gallery owner called me. One of Zoe's pieces caught the attention of a collector who's in town for the week. He wants to purchase it. Maya blinked, processing this information. Purchase it? But it's a student show. I didn't think the works were for sale. Normally they aren't. But the gallery makes exceptions for serious collectors. This one is offering $10,000. $10,000? Maya nearly dropped her phone. That's insane. For a student piece. It's not about the student status. It's about the talent, Dominic explained. This collector specializes in discovering emerging artists early in their careers. He believes Zoe has exceptional potential. Maya's mind raced. $10,000 would make an enormous difference in their lives. It could pay off the last of her parents' medical bills, create a college fund for Zoe, maybe even allow Maya to take a few art therapy classes at the community college. What does Zoe say? She asked. I haven't told her yet. I wanted to speak with you first since you're her guardian. The gallery needs an answer by tomorrow. Maya hesitated. Can I think about it? This is a big decision. Of course. Take your time. Dominic paused. There's one more thing you should know. The collector wants to meet Zoe to discuss her work and her future plans. Her future plans? She's 16. I know. But in the art world, talent like hers doesn't go unnoticed. This could be an important connection for her. Maya sighed, feeling overwhelmed. I'll talk to Zoe tonight and let you know what we decide. That sounds perfect. Another pause. And Maya? About the newspaper photo. Not now, Dominic, she interrupted. One crisis at a time, okay? Of course, I'll wait for your call. When Maya arrived home, she found Zoe already there, working on homework at the kitchen table. She looked up with a smile that quickly faded when she saw Maya's expression. What's wrong? She asked. You look weird. Maya sat down across from her. Nothing's wrong exactly, but something unexpected has happened. She explained about the collector's interest, watching Zoe's eyes grow wider with each detail. $10,000, Zoe whispered when Maya finished. For my painting. Yes, and he wants to meet you to discuss your work. Zoe sat back in her chair, looking stunned. Wow. Wow. We don't have to accept, Maya said carefully. It's your artwork, your decision. Are you kidding? Of course I want to accept. Zoe leaned forward eagerly. Do you know what this means? I could help with bills, maybe even save for college. Maya's heart swelled with pride and love. Even in this moment of personal triumph, Zoe's first thought was for their shared financial burden. The money would definitely help, she acknowledged, but I want to make sure you're comfortable with selling your work and with meeting this collector. I am, Zoe insisted. Totally comfortable. When can we meet him? I need to call Dominic back to arrange it, probably tomorrow or the next day, since the collector is only in town for a short time. At the mention of Dominic's name, Zoe's expression grew thoughtful. He's really changed our lives, hasn't he? The simple observation caught Maya off guard. What do you mean? Think about it. A few months ago, I was just a kid who liked to draw. Now, I'm selling artwork to collectors. You were cleaning offices at night and now you're dancing with billionaires at charity galas. That was just one dance, Maya protested weakly. Maybe, but things are different since he came into our lives. Zoe studied her aunt's face. That scares you, doesn't it? Sometimes Zoe's perceptiveness was unsettling. A little, Maya admitted. Change can be good, but it can also be destabilizing. You mean you're afraid to let yourself care about him? Zoe translated bluntly. Because of the whole rich-poor thing and because of how you met, and because you're worried he's just trying to make up for what happened to Grandma and Grandpa. Maya stared at her niece, momentarily speechless. When did you get so insightful about adult relationships? Zoe rolled her eyes. I watch TV, Maya, plus it's pretty obvious. The way you two look at each other, but then both act all weird and formal when you say goodbye. She shrugged. Anyway, I think you should give him a chance. It's complicated, Maya said, falling back on her standard defense. Everything worth having is complicated, Zoe replied, with the confidence of youth. That's what Grandpa always said, right? The reference to her father, accurate and pointed, landed like a gentle reprimand. Maya found herself smiling despite her turmoil. You're too smart for your own good, you know that. I know, Zoe agreed cheerfully. So are you going to call Dominic about the collector or what? Maya reached for her phone, shaking her head in amused surrender. Yes, I'm calling him now. The meeting with the collector was arranged for the following afternoon at the gallery. Maya took time off from the diner, something she rarely did, to accompany Zoe, with Dominic joining them as the initial connection to the gallery. The collector, Arthur Pembroke, turned out to be a distinguished older gentleman with kind eyes and a soft-spoken manner that immediately put Zoe at ease. He spent nearly an hour discussing her work with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions about her techniques and inspirations. Your use of light and shadow is remarkable for someone your age, he told Zoe as they stood before her portrait, the one titled The Path Not Taken, that showed Maya as she might have been. There's emotional truth here, a recognition of possibilities both realized and lost. Zoe beamed at the praise. That's exactly what I was trying to capture. As the conversation continued, Maya found herself drawn into a discussion with the gallery owner about the logistics of the sale, leaving Zoe and Dominic chatting with Mr. Pembroke. 10% is our standard commission for student works, the gallery owner explained. The remaining 9,000 will go directly to Zoe, or to you as her guardian if you prefer. To Zoe, Maya said firmly. It's her work, her achievement. When all the details had been settled and contracts signed, Mr. Pembroke approached Maya directly for the first time. "You've raised an exceptional young woman," he said warmly. "Her talent is remarkable, but even more impressive is her maturity and insight." "Thank you," Maya replied, genuinely touched. "I'm very proud of her." "I understand you have a background in art therapy?" The question surprised her. "Yes, though I never completed my degree." "How did you know?" Mr. Pembroke glanced toward Dominic, who was still engaged in conversation with Zoe across the room. "Mr. Hale mentioned it. He speaks very highly of your abilities." Before Maya could respond, the collector continued. "I serve on the board of several arts education programs, including one that combines therapeutic approaches with traditional instruction. We're always looking for individuals with your particular background and sensitivity." He handed her a business card. "If you're ever interested in exploring opportunities in that field, please contact me." Maya accepted the card, stunned by the unexpected opening. "Thank you. I will." The drive home was filled with excited chatter from Zoe, who couldn't stop talking about Mr. Pembroke's insights into her work and his invitation to submit pieces for future shows. "He said I have a distinctive voice," she bubbled from the back seat of Dominic's car. "A distinctive voice, me." "He's absolutely right," Dominic agreed, glancing at Zoe in the rearview mirror. "Your work shows remarkable maturity." Maya sat quietly in the passenger seat, still processing everything that had happened. The sale itself was extraordinary enough, but Mr. Pembroke's comment about art therapy opportunities had awakened possibilities she'd long since put aside. When they arrived at the apartment building, Zoe bounded out of the car, eager to call her best friend with the news. Dominic and Maya followed more slowly. "You've been quiet," he observed as they entered the building. "Is everything okay?" "Just overwhelmed," Maya admitted, in a good way. Seeing Zoe recognized like this, it's more than I ever imagined possible for her at this age. They reached the apartment door, and Zoe had already disappeared inside, the sound of her excited voice on the phone floating out to the hallway. "Mr. Pembroke mentioned he spoke to you about me," Maya said, turning to face Dominic. "About my background in art therapy." Dominic nodded. "It came up while you were discussing the contracts. He asked about you, and I mentioned your education and interests." "Why?" The directness of her question seemed to catch him off guard. "Because I thought he might have connections that could be valuable to you, and because I believe in your talents as much as I believe in Zoe's." Maya studied his face, looking for any sign of manipulation or hidden agenda, but found only sincerity. "Thank you," she said finally. "That was thoughtful." "You're welcome." He hesitated. "Maya, about the newspaper photograph." "I saw it," she interrupted. "Eddie showed me at the diner. I'm sorry if it caused you any discomfort. I've spoken to my PR team about respecting your privacy going forward." The mention of his PR team, something so far removed from her reality, was a stark reminder of the gulf between their worlds. "It's fine," she said, though it wasn't, not really. Just unexpected. Dominic seemed about to say more when Zoe poked her head out of the apartment. "Are you guys coming in or what? I'm starving and we should celebrate." Dominic smiled at her enthusiasm. "Actually, I should get going. You two have plenty to celebrate together." "No way," Zoe protested. "You're part of this too. Without you, I never would have had my art in that gallery in the first place." Before Dominic could respond, Maya found herself saying, "She's right. You should stay. We'll order pizza." The genuine surprise and pleasure on his face made something twist in Maya's chest. For all his wealth and power, Dominic Hale seemed genuinely touched by the simple invitation to share their celebration. "Pizza sounds perfect," he said. Later, after they'd eaten and Zoe had finally crashed from her excitement, falling asleep on the couch in mid-sentence, Maya and Dominic sat at the kitchen table, sharing the last of the wine he'd brought. "What will she do with the money?" Dominic asked quietly, glancing at Zoe's sleeping form. "She wants to help with bills," Maya said with a proud smile, "but I'm going to insist most of it goes into a college fund for her, with a small portion for her to use for art supplies or whatever else she wants." "She's lucky to have you." "I'm the lucky one," Maya corrected him. "She's the reason I got through these past few years. Having someone to care for, it forces you to keep going even when you don't think you can." Dominic nodded, understanding in his eyes. "That's what Sophia was for me after our parents died. My reason to keep going." The parallel hadn't occurred to Maya before, that they had both been anchored by responsibility to someone they loved. "What happened after Sophia died?" she asked gently. "What became your reason then?" Dominic looked down at his wine glass, turning it slowly between his fingers. "Work, building the company, making money. None of it filled the void, but it kept me moving forward. He looked up, meeting her eyes. Until the night you walked into my office. The quiet admission hung in the air between them. Maya knew they were approaching dangerous territory again, the unspoken feelings, the undeniable connection that both attracted and frightened her. "Dominic," she began, not sure what she was going to say. "It's okay," he interrupted softly. "You don't need to say anything. I understand your hesitation. Our worlds are different. Our circumstances are complicated. I'm not asking for promises or commitments." "Then what are you asking for?" Maya whispered. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of touching hers. "Just possibility. The chance to see where this might lead, without the weight of the past dictating our future." The simplicity of his request, the vulnerability behind it, touched Maya deeply. This man who could have anything, anyone, was asking only for a chance. With her. "I can't promise where it will lead," she said carefully, "but I'm willing to explore the possibility." The smile that spread across Dominic's face was unlike any she'd seen before, open, unguarded, genuinely happy. He gently took her hand in his thumb tracing small circles on her palm. "That's more than enough for now," he said. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, something new and fragile growing in the space between them. Finally, Maya glanced at the clock. "It's getting late. I should probably wake Zoe and get her to bed." Dominic nodded, releasing her hand reluctantly. "Of course." As he gathered his jacket, Maya gently roused Zoe, who mumbled sleepily about collectors and paintings before shuffling off to her bedroom. At the door, Dominic turned to Maya. "Thank you for including me tonight. It meant a lot. Thank you for everything you did for Zoe today, for both of us." They stood facing each other, the moment stretching with possibility. Then, with gentle deliberation, Dominic leaned forward and placed a soft kiss on Maya's cheek. "Good night, Maya," he said quietly. "Good night," she replied, her skin tingling where his lips had touched. After he left, Maya closed the door and leaned against it, her heart racing. Something had shifted again tonight, a step forward into uncharted territory. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. For the first time in 3 years, Maya found herself not just surviving, but hoping. Hoping for a future that might hold more than just work and responsibility. A future that might include joy, connection, even love. It was a dangerous hope, perhaps, but tonight she decided to embrace it. Over the next several weeks, Maya and Dominic's relationship evolved cautiously. They continued their Friday dinners at her apartment, but now added occasional outings, a walk in Central Park, a visit to a small art gallery in Brooklyn, a quiet dinner at a neighborhood restaurant Dominic had researched specifically because it wouldn't attract attention. Each time they met, the connection between them deepened. Maya discovered that beneath Dominic's reserved exterior was a man of surprising complexity, thoughtful, occasionally funny, deeply loyal to the few people he truly trusted. For his part, Dominic seemed genuinely captivated by Maya's perspective on life, her resilience, her ability to find beauty in simple moments. He listened to her stories about her parents, about her dream of helping people through art therapy, with an attentiveness that made her feel truly seen. They were careful to keep their relationship private, away from the prying eyes of media that might turn their story into tabloid fodder. The one time they were photographed together, at a small community theater production they'd attended with Zoe, Dominic had his security team speak with the photographer, ensuring the images weren't published. "I want to protect what we're building," he explained, when Maya questioned the intervention. "Once the media gets involved, everything becomes distorted." She understood his concern, even shared it. The bubble they'd created felt precious, fragile, a space where they could discover each other without external pressures or expectations. But reality had a way of intruding, no matter how carefully they tried to keep it at bay. It was a Tuesday afternoon when Maya's phone rang while she was working at the diner. The caller ID showed the number for Zoe's school. "Ms. Ellis, this is Principal Warner. There's been an incident involving Zoe. She's in my office now." Maya's heart sank. "What kind of incident?" "She was involved in an altercation with another student. Nothing physical, but there were some concerning words exchanged. I think it would be best if you came down right away." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Maya promised, already untying her apron. When she arrived at the school, she found Zoe sitting stiffly in a chair outside the principal's office, arms crossed, face set in a defiant expression Maya rarely saw. "What happened?" Maya asked, sitting beside her. Zoe's jaw tightened. "Kayla Phillips happened. She's been saying stuff about us, about you specifically, and I finally had enough. What kind of stuff? Zoe hesitated, then said in a low voice, she said you were only dating Dominic for his money, that you were using him to climb the social ladder. She called you a gold digger, Maya. Maya felt as if she'd been slapped. And what did you say to her? I told her to shut her ignorant mouth before I shut it for her, Zoe admitted. And then I said some other stuff I probably shouldn't repeat. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Maya had to suppress a smile at her niece's fierce loyalty. I appreciate you defending me, but threatening other students isn't the answer. I know, Zoe sighed. But you should hear how she talks about us, Maya. Ever since that newspaper photo of you and Dominic came out, she's been awful, asking if we're moving to a mansion, if I'm getting a new car for my birthday, like we're suddenly different people because of who you're dating. The principal's door opened before Maya could respond. Mrs. Ellis, please come in. Zoe, you wait here. Inside the office, Principal Warner explained that while Zoe hadn't initiated the confrontation, her response had escalated it significantly. The school's policy required a one-day suspension for both students involved. I understand, Maya said, hiding her dismay. Zoe had never been in trouble at school before. There's something else you should be aware of, the principal added. This isn't the first time Kayla has made comments about your family. Apparently there's been quite a bit of discussion among the students about your relationship with Dominic Hale. Maya felt her cheeks warm. I see. It's none of my business, of course, Principal Warner said carefully. But you should know that Zoe has been defending you vigorously, perhaps too vigorously in this case. When they left the school, Zoe remained silent until they were halfway home. Are you mad at me? She finally asked. Maya sighed. No, I'm not mad. I just wish you'd told me what was going on before it reached this point. I didn't want to bother you with it. You've been so happy lately. The simple observation caught Maya off guard. Had she been happier? Yes, she realized, she had been. Despite all her reservations, her relationship with Dominic had brought a lightness to her life she hadn't experienced in years. Zoe, you can always tell me anything, she said, especially if someone is bothering you. It wasn't bothering me. Not really. Zoe kicked at a pebble on the sidewalk. It was making me angry. The way they talked about you, about us, like we're trying to use Dominic or something. They don't understand anything. No, they don't, Maya agreed. But their opinion doesn't matter. What matters is that we know the truth. Which is what? That you're dating a billionaire because you like him, not his money? Yes, Maya said simply. Zoe studied her face. You really do like him, don't you? Like, a lot. Maya hesitated, then decided Zoe deserved her honesty. Yes, I do, more than I expected to. A small smile broke through Zoe's troubled expression. Good, because he really likes you too. It's kind of obvious. That evening, after Zoe had gone to bed, Maya called Dominic to tell him about the incident at school. I'm so sorry, he said, genuine distress in his voice. This is exactly what I was afraid might happen if our relationship became public knowledge. It's not your fault, Maya assured him. Teenagers can be cruel, and this girl in particular seems to have some issues. Still, I hate that you and Zoe are dealing with this because of me. Not because of you, Maya corrected, because people make assumptions based on our different backgrounds. That would happen regardless of who you are specifically. There was a pause on the line. Maybe so, but it doesn't make it any easier to hear that Zoe is being bullied over our relationship. She's tougher than she looks, Maya said, and it's not like she's being singled out consistently. This was just one incident. Another pause, longer this time. Maya, there's something I need to tell you, something I've been considering for a while now. The seriousness in his tone made her nervous. What is it? I've been offered an opportunity to expand Silvergate's operations to Europe. It would mean relocating to London, at least for a year or two, to oversee the new division. Maya felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath her. Oh, she managed. When would this happen? The timeline is flexible. I could delay until the fall, but not much longer than that. I see. Maya struggled to keep her voice steady. Have you decided to accept? No, Dominic said quickly. That's why I'm telling you now. Before, when we were just whatever we were, it seemed like a good opportunity professionally. But now, with us, with what's developing between us, it's a more complicated decision. Maya closed her eyes, fighting the sudden ache in her chest. This was inevitable, wasn't it? Their worlds colliding, reality intruding on the fragile bubble they'd created. You should take it, she said, the words tasting bitter in her mouth. It's a great opportunity for your career. Maya, Dominic's voice softened. I'm not telling you this to end things. I'm telling you because I want to discuss it with you. Because what you think, what you want, matters to me. The simple declaration caught her off guard. What are you saying? I'm saying that before I make any decision, I want to know how you feel, about us, about possibilities. Maya took a deep breath. Dominic, we've only been exploring this for a few weeks. It's too soon for big decisions like this. Is it? He challenged gently. We've known each other for months now. We may not have put a name to our relationship until recently, but it's been building all this time. He was right, she knew. Whatever was between them had been growing since that first night in his office, through every dinner, every conversation, every shared moment with Zoe. I don't know what to say, she admitted. I care about you deeply, but asking me to factor into a decision this big, it's a lot of pressure. I understand, Dominic said, disappointment evident in his voice despite his effort to hide it. Take some time to think about it. There's no rush. But there was, Maya thought after they'd ended the call. Time was suddenly a factor in a way it hadn't been before. The possibility of Dominic leaving for London hung over their newfound relationship like a shadow, forcing questions neither of them was quite ready to answer. What did she want? What future could she envision with this man who lived in a world so different from her own? And more importantly, what was she willing to risk for that future? Sleep eluded her that night, these questions circling endlessly in her mind. By morning, she was no closer to answers, but had reached one conclusion. She needed to be honest with Dominic about her fears, her hopes, her confusion. Only through that honesty could they find a path forward, together or apart. Part 4. The day after learning about Dominic's potential move to London, Maya found herself distracted at work, dropping orders and mixing up tables in a way she never had before. By mid-afternoon, Eddie had noticed. "What's going on with you today?" he asked, concern evident beneath his gruff tone. "You're a million miles away," Maya sighed, setting down the tray she'd been loading. "Sorry, Eddie, just got a lot on my mind." "Billionaire troubles?" he guessed, with surprising accuracy. She looked up, startled. "How did you know?" "I've been around the block a few times," Eddie said with a shrug. "Got that same look my daughter had when her fiancé got transferred across the country, like you're trying to solve a math problem that has no right answer." Maya smiled weakly. "That's not far off." Eddie studied her for a moment, then made a decision. "Take the rest of the day off. Figure out whatever you need to figure out." "Eddie, I can't." "Sure you can. We're slow and Tanya needs the hours anyway. Go." Gratitude washed over Maya. "Thank you, I'll make it up to you. Just don't forget us when you're living in that penthouse," Eddie said, repeating his earlier joke, but this time with genuine warmth. Outside the diner, Maya found herself walking without a clear destination, her thoughts as jumbled as ever. When her phone buzzed with a text from Dominic, her heart skipped. "Can we talk? In person? Whenever you're ready." She texted back immediately. "I'm free now, actually. Eddie gave me the afternoon off." His reply came seconds later. "I'll send a car." "Where are you?" Maya hesitated, then made a decision. "No car. Let's meet at Washington Square Park, the fountain, in an hour." She needed neutral ground for this conversation, not her apartment with all its emotional connections, not his office with its reminders of their vast differences. The park, with its mix of students, tourists, and locals, felt right somehow. When she arrived, Dominic was already there, sitting on a bench near the fountain. He'd dressed down in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, though Maya suspected even his casual clothes cost more than her rent. He stood when he saw her, his face lighting up despite the tension of the moment. "Thank you for meeting me," he said as she approached. "Thanks for coming to the park," she replied. "I thought it might be good to talk somewhere neutral." He nodded, understanding. "Would you like to walk?" They fell into step together, circling the fountain at a leisurely pace. For several minutes, neither spoke, the ambient noise of the park filling the silence between them. "I'm sorry for springing the London news on you like that," Dominic finally said, especially after hearing about what happened with Zoe at school. "It's not your fault," Maya assured him. "You couldn't have known about Zoe's situation, and the London opportunity is important. You had to tell me. Still, the timing could have been better." He glanced at her. "Have you had time to think about it?" Maya took a deep breath. "Yes, and what I keep coming back to is this. We're at very different places in our lives, Dominic. You're at a point where you can consider moving to London for your career. I'm at a point where I'm still paying off my parents' medical bills and trying to give Zoe stability." "I understand that," Dominic said carefully, "but circumstances can change." "Can they? Really?" Maya stopped walking, turning to face him. because from where I stand it seems like one of us would have to change our entire life to accommodate the other. Either I uproot everything, my job, Zoe's school, our whole support system, to follow you to London, or you give up an incredible professional opportunity to stay in New York. Dominic was quiet for a moment, considering her words. What if there was a third option? Which is, we find a way to make it work, together. Maybe not immediately, but as a goal to work toward. The simplicity of his answer, the quiet determination behind it, caught Maya off guard. How would that even look? Dominic gestured to a nearby bench and they sat down. Honestly, I don't know exactly, but I know that when something matters enough, you find a way. And I matter enough? Maya asked softly. Yes, he said without hesitation. More than I think you realize. The certainty in his voice made Maya's heart race. Dominic, Wait, he interrupted gently. Before you say anything else, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Maya tensed, bracing herself for whatever revelation was coming. The night you found me in my office with your photograph, Dominic began, I wasn't just grieving Sophia or feeling guilty about your parents. I was at a breaking point. He paused, gathering his thoughts. For 3 years after the accident, I'd been living half a life, working obsessively, cutting myself off from anything that might make me feel too much. Sophia's death, it broke something in me. I blame myself for not being there that night, for not insisting she take a car service like I usually did. Maya listened silently, seeing the pain etched in his features as he continued. That night in my office, I just received news that the drunk driver who hit your parents had been granted early parole. Good behavior. His voice turned bitter. 3 lives destroyed, and he was walking free after less than 3 years. I didn't know, Maya whispered. How could you? I never told you. Dominic looked down at his hands. I was sitting there looking at your photograph, feeling like the universe was mocking me, like nothing I'd accomplished. Not the money, not the company, not the power, meant anything because I couldn't protect the people who mattered. I couldn't bring justice for your parents or my sister. He looked up, meeting her eyes. And then you walked in, like some kind of miracle. The woman from the photograph, suddenly real, standing in my doorway. In that moment, it felt like the universe was giving me a second chance, a chance to do something right, to make some kind of amends. Is that all I was? Maya asked, her voice barely audible. A chance for redemption. At first, maybe, Dominic admitted, his honesty painful but necessary. But Maya, that changed so quickly. The moment I actually talked with you, got to know you, you became so much more than a symbol or a project. You became a person, brilliant, compassionate, fiercely independent, someone who challenged me, who saw through the facade I present to the world. He reached for her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she let him take it. I know our beginning was complicated, he continued, built on grief and guilt and coincidence, but what's grown between us is real. At least, it is for me. Maya felt tears gathering, but refused to let them fall. It's real for me too, she admitted. That's what scares me so much. Why? Because I've spent 3 years being strong, building walls, focusing on survival, putting Zoe's needs first, and then you came along, and suddenly those walls started crumbling, and I started wanting things for myself again. She took a shaky breath. What if I let myself want this, want you, and it all falls apart? I'm not sure I could rebuild those walls a second time. Dominic's grip on her hand tightened. I can't promise we won't face challenges, but I can promise that whatever comes, we'll face it together. That's what partners do. Partners, Maya repeated. Yes, Dominic said simply. That's what I want us to be. Partners, equals. Despite our different backgrounds, different resources. How can we be equals when you can buy and sell my entire apartment building without blinking? A small smile touched his lips. Money isn't the only form of wealth, Maya. You're rich in ways I've only begun to discover. In compassion, in creativity, in your capacity to love. Ways that matter far more than the balance in my bank account. The sincerity in his voice, the depth of feeling in his eyes, touched something deep within Maya. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly consider a future with this man, not as a fantasy or a temporary connection, but as something real and lasting. So what happens now? She asked. With London, with us? That depends on what you want, Dominic replied, but I have a suggestion if you're willing to hear it. I'm listening. The London position doesn't have to start immediately. I can delay it for several months, give us time to figure things out. In the meantime, he hesitated, then continued, I'd like you to consider finishing your degree in art therapy. Maya blinked in surprise. What? Mr. Pembroke mentioned there's a program at NYU that would recognize your previous credits. It would take about a year to complete. Dominic, I can't afford. I want to establish a scholarship, he interrupted. Through the Ellis Foundation, we set up for the hospital wing, for students pursuing careers in therapeutic fields. You would be the first recipient. Maya stared at him, processing his words. You want to create a scholarship for me, for you, and for others like you. People with talent and passion who just need the opportunity. His expression grew earnest. It wouldn't be charity, Maya. It would be an investment in you, in the people you'll help someday, in a future where your parents' legacy lives on through your work. The thoughtfulness of the offer, the way he'd framed it to respect her independence while still offering support, moved her deeply. And after I finish the degree, she asked, what then? Then we reassess. Maybe you come to London with me. Maybe I stay here or divide my time between both cities. Maybe we find a third option we haven't even considered yet. He squeezed her hand gently. The point is, we'll make the decision together, as partners. Not now, when everything is still new and uncertain, but a year from now, when we've had time to build something solid. Maya sat quietly, letting his proposal sink in. It wasn't perfect. No solution could be, given their circumstances. But it offered something she hadn't expected, a middle path, a way forward that honored both their needs, that didn't require either of them to sacrifice everything for the other. What about Zoe? She asked. Her life is here, her school, her friends, the art program. Zoe would stay here with you, of course, Dominic said immediately. Her education and stability come first. And from what I've seen of her talent, she has a bright future ahead in the New York art scene. Maya nodded, another piece falling into place. You've thought this through. I have, Dominic admitted, because you matter to me, because what we're building matters to me. Maya looked out at the fountain, watching the water sparkle in the afternoon sun. Children played nearby, tourists snapped photos, students lounged on the grass with books and laptops. Normal life, continuing all around them while they sat discussing a future that seemed anything but normal. I need to think about it, she said finally. Not just about London or the scholarship, but about us, what we want, where this is going. Of course, Dominic agreed. Take all the time you need. Maya turned back to him, a small smile forming despite the weight of the conversation. You know, for someone who has a reputation as a ruthless businessman, you can be surprisingly patient. He returned her smile, his eyes warming. Only for things that really matter. They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, still holding hands, each lost in their own thoughts about the future. I should go, Maya said eventually. Zoe will be home from school soon. Dominic nodded, rising with her. May I walk you to the subway? I'd like that. As they left the park, Maya felt lighter somehow, despite the unresolved questions between them. For the first time, she allowed herself to truly imagine a future with Dominic, not as a fantasy or a temporary connection, but as something real and lasting. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was possible. The week that followed was one of deep reflection for Maya. She discussed Dominic's proposal with Vanessa, who offered cautious support. It's a good compromise, Vanessa admitted. He's not asking you to drop everything and follow him to London, and he's offering help in a way that respects your pride. But is it right to accept something like that from him? Maya wondered. A whole scholarship? If it were just for you, maybe I'd be concerned, Vanessa said thoughtfully. But creating a foundation that will help others too, that changes the dynamic. It's not just about your relationship. It's about creating something meaningful that honors your parents. Maya also spoke with Zoe, careful to present the situation without influencing her niece's opinion. So you'd go back to school, finish your degree, and then maybe we'd move to London, Zoe summarized after Maya had explained everything. That's one possibility, Maya confirmed, but nothing's decided yet. Your needs come first, Zoe. Your school, your friends, your art program, those are all important factors. Zoe was quiet for a moment, contemplating. I think you should do it, she said finally. Finish your degree, I mean. You've put your dreams on hold for so long, Maya. First for your parents, then for me. I don't regret any of that, Maya said quickly. I know you don't, but maybe it's time for you to have something for yourself. Zoe's expression turned earnest. And as for London, well, they have art schools there too, right? And museums, and artists. It could be an adventure. The casual acceptance in Zoe's voice, The lack of fear at the prospect of such a massive change reminded Maya of the resilience of youth. For Zoe, who had already weathered the greatest loss imaginable, the idea of moving to a new city with the people she loved didn't seem particularly daunting. By Friday evening, when Dominic was due for their regular dinner, Maya had reached a decision. She prepared his favorite meal, her mother's jerk chicken, and asked Zoe to spend the night at a friend's house, wanting privacy for their conversation. When Dominic arrived, he seemed unusually nervous, a bottle of wine in one hand and a small gift bag in the other. "For you," he said, offering the bag after she'd taken the wine. Inside, Maya found a small velvet box. Opening it revealed a delicate silver necklace with a pendant, a tiny, perfect paintbrush charm. "It's beautiful," she said, genuinely touched. "But what's the occasion?" "No occasion," Dominic replied. "Just saw it and thought of you." As they sat down to dinner, Maya noticed Dominic watching her with an intensity that made her both nervous and excited. Finally, as they finished their meal, he set down his fork. "I can't stand the suspense anymore," he admitted. "Have you thought about what we discussed? About the scholarship? About us?" Maya took a deep breath. "I have. A lot, actually. And I've decided to accept your offer of the scholarship," she said slowly. "Not just for me, but because I believe in what the foundation could accomplish. The idea of helping others through art therapy, of continuing my parents' legacy of compassion, it feels right." Relief and joy spread across Dominic's face. "Maya, that's wonderful. I'm so—" "But," she interrupted gently, "I need to be clear about something. Accepting the scholarship doesn't mean I'm making promises about London or about our future together. Not yet." Dominic's expression sobered. "I understand." "Do you? Because I need you to hear me, Dominic. I care about you, deeply. What's happened between us these past months? It's been unexpected and beautiful, but I can't build my entire life or Zoe's around a relationship that's still so new." "What are you saying?" he asked, tension evident in his voice. Maya reached across the table, taking his hand. "I'm saying I want to keep exploring this connection between us. I want to see where it leads, day by day. And a year from now, when I've finished my degree and you need to make a decision about London, we'll revisit the question together, as partners." The tension in Dominic's face eased, replaced by understanding. "Partners," he repeated. "I like the sound of that." "So do I," Maya admitted with a small smile. "And in the meantime, while you're studying?" "In the meantime, we continue as we have been, getting to know each other, building trust, seeing if what we feel can grow into something lasting." Dominic nodded, satisfaction evident in his eyes. "That sounds perfect." As they cleared the table together, a domestic routine that had become familiar over their many shared meals, Maya felt a sense of rightness settle over her. The path ahead wasn't clear or certain, but it was theirs to walk together, step by step. Later, as they sat on the couch, Maya curled against Dominic's side, she remembered something. "I never asked you. Why were you crying that night, in your office when I found you with my photograph?" Dominic was quiet for a moment, his arm tightening slightly around her shoulders. "I told you about the drunk driver getting early parole." "Yes, but that doesn't fully explain the tears." "You're not someone who cries easily," he sighed, a sound that carried years of pain. "I was crying because for the first time since Sophia died, I felt something besides numbness or anger. Looking at your photograph, remembering your parents' sacrifice, it made me want to live again. Really live, not just exist. And that realization was overwhelming." Maya turned her face up to his, struck by the raw honesty in his admission. "And now, what do you feel now?" Dominic's eyes met hers, deep with emotion. "Hope," he said simply. "For the first time in years, I feel hope." The word echoed in Maya's heart, because she felt it too, a fragile, precious hope for a future that might hold more than just survival, a future that might include joy, purpose, connection, love. She reached up, her hand gentle against his cheek, and pulled him down for a kiss, their first real kiss, tender and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "I'm falling in love with you, Maya Ellis," he whispered. "I think I have been since the moment you walked into my office." Maya smiled, her heart full. "I'm falling in love with you too, Dominic Hale, despite my best efforts not to." He laughed softly, the sound warming her. "We make quite the pair, don't we? Both so determined to protect ourselves, to keep our walls up." "Maybe it's time to let those walls come down," Maya suggested. "Not all at once, but little by little." "I'd like that," Dominic agreed, pulling her closer. Outside the window of Maya's small apartment, the city lights twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there was the gleaming tower where they'd first met, a billionaire in crisis and a cleaning woman just trying to get through her shift. Two souls connected by tragedy, now finding their way towards something neither had expected, a second chance at happiness. 1 year later, the graduation ceremony at NYU's Tisch School of the Arts was packed with proud families and friends. Maya sat among her fellow graduates, still hardly believing she was here, that she had actually completed her master's in art therapy after putting the dream aside for so long. In the audience, she could see Zoe beaming, camera ready to capture the moment Maya crossed the stage. Beside her sat Vanessa, and next to Vanessa was Dominic, looking happier and more relaxed than Maya had ever seen him. The past year had been one of tremendous growth and change. With Dominic's support through the Ellis Foundation Scholarship, Maya had thrown herself into her studies, excelling in both academic and clinical work. Her professors had been particularly impressed by her project developing art therapy interventions for bereaved teenagers, inspired by her experience with Zoe. Zoe herself had flourished as well. Under Mr. Pembroke's mentorship, she'd continued to develop her artistic talent, with 2 more of her pieces selling at student exhibitions. The money had been carefully saved for her college fund, growing alongside the trust Dominic had established for her education. And Dominic, he had changed perhaps the most of all. The cold, reserved businessman was still there when needed for corporate negotiations, but at home, in the moments that mattered, he had slowly let his walls down. He laughed more easily now, shared his thoughts more openly, allowed himself to be vulnerable in ways that once would have terrified him. Their relationship had deepened day by day, through small moments and big ones, quiet dinners at Maya's apartment, weekend outings with Zoe, a memorable vacation to the Caribbean where Maya had shown them the island where her parents were born. They'd had disagreements too, of course, clashes born of their different backgrounds and perspectives, but each time they'd found their way back to understanding, to compromise, to stronger ground. As for London, the opportunity had evolved. Dominic had restructured the expansion plan, allowing him to split his time between New York and London rather than relocating permanently. It meant more travel for him, more video conferences at odd hours, but it also meant they could build a life together without either of them having to sacrifice everything. Maya rose from her seat and walked across the stage, heart pounding. As she accepted her diploma, she heard Zoe's distinctive cheer above the polite applause, followed by Vanessa's enthusiastic whistling. She glanced toward them, smiling, and caught Dominic's gaze, full of pride, admiration, and something deeper, something that still made her breath catch after all these months. After the ceremony, they gathered outside under the bright May sunshine. Zoe threw her arms around Maya, nearly knocking her graduation cap askew. "You did it!" she exclaimed. "So official art therapist. Does this mean I get free therapy now?" Maya laughed, hugging her back. "You already get free therapy every time you complain about school while I'm making dinner." Vanessa stepped forward next, embracing Maya tightly. "So proud of you, girl," she whispered. "Your parents would be too." The mention of her parents brought unexpected tears to Maya's eyes. "I know," she managed. "I felt them here today." When Vanessa stepped back, Dominic moved forward, his expression tender. He wrapped his arms around Maya, holding her close. "Congratulations, Ms. Ellis," he murmured against her hair. "Top of your class, just like I knew you would be." Maya pulled back just enough to see his face. "I couldn't have done it without you." "Yes, you could have," he corrected gently. "You're the strongest person I know, but I'm glad you didn't have to." Something in his tone, in the intensity of his gaze, made Maya's heart flutter. Before she could respond, he took her hand. "There's something I want to show you. All of you," he added, glancing at Zoe and Vanessa. "A graduation present of sorts." "Dominic, you didn't need to—" "Just wait," he interrupted with a smile. "You might like this one." A sleek black car waited at the curb. Not the usual chauffeur-driven town car Dominic sometimes sent for her, but a more modest sedan with Dominic's assistant, James, at the wheel. "Where are we going?" Maya asked as they settled inside, Zoe practically vibrating with excitement beside her. "You'll see," Dominic replied mysteriously. 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of a brownstone in Fort Greene, a lovely, well-maintained building on a tree-lined street. Maya had always admired this neighborhood, with its sense of community and history, but had never imagined living here. "What is this place?" she asked as they exited the car. Instead of answering, Dominic led them up the steps and unlocked the front door, gesturing for them to enter. Inside, Maya found a spacious, light-filled apartment, thoughtfully renovated, but retaining its original character in the crown molding and hardwood floors. The furnishings were simple but elegant, nothing overly extravagant. "Dominic," she began, understanding dawning. "Is this the first project of the Ellis Community Housing Initiative?" he confirmed. "A program to provide affordable housing for healthcare workers and educators. This building has 6 units, all ready for occupants next month, except for this one." He gestured around the apartment they stood in. "This one has been reserved for the program's director, if she wants it." Maya stared at him, processing his words. "Director? What director?" Dominic's expression grew more serious. "The board of the Ellis Foundation, which now includes Mr. Pembroke, by the way, has approved a new division focused on community support, healthcare, education, housing. We need someone to lead it, someone with compassion, insight, and personal experience of the challenges these communities face." "You want me to run the foundation?" Maya asked incredulously. "Part of it," Dominic corrected. "The Community Initiatives Division. You'd work alongside the medical research team, but with your own budget, your own staff." "But I just graduated. I don't have experience running a foundation." "You have life experience that's far more valuable," Dominic countered. "And you'd have support, mentorship, training, whatever you need." Maya looked around the beautiful apartment, then back at Dominic, overwhelmed. "This is too much." "Actually," Vanessa chimed in unexpectedly, "it's kind of perfect. You've always wanted to help people, Maya. First through art therapy, now through this foundation. It's like everything you've been through has been preparing you for this." "Plus," Zoe added excitedly, "this place is awesome. My room would be twice the size of our old one." Maya raised an eyebrow at her niece. "Who said anything about this being our apartment?" Zoe rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Maya. He bought a whole building and created a job for you. Are you really going to say no?" Put that way, it did sound ridiculous to refuse. Still, Maya turned to Dominic, needing to understand his intentions. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Dominic took her hands in his expression earnest. "Because I believe in you. Because I've seen what you can accomplish when given the opportunity. And because—" he hesitated, then continued, "because I want to build a life with you, Maya. A real life, not just stolen evenings and weekends between my trips to London." The raw honesty in his voice touched something deep in Maya's heart. This wasn't charity or an attempt to control her. It was a partnership, an invitation to create something meaningful together. "The job comes with the apartment," Dominic continued, "but it's not contingent on us. If you accept the position but want to live elsewhere, or if you decide our relationship isn't what you want long-term, the job is still yours. No strings attached." The care he'd taken to preserve her independence, to give her real choices, moved Maya deeply. This was so different from the power dynamic she'd feared when they first began exploring their feelings for each other. "Could I have a minute alone with Dominic?" she asked, glancing at Vanessa and Zoe. "Sure thing," Vanessa replied, nudging Zoe toward the door. "We'll check out the rest of the building." Once they were alone, Maya turned to Dominic. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "I tried to," he admitted. "I wanted to get it right. To show you that I understand what matters to you, your independence, your desire to help others, your need to build something of your own." "And what about what matters to you?" Maya asked softly. "London, your company, your career? They're still important," Dominic acknowledged, "but not as important as you, as us. I've restructured things at Silvergate to allow me more flexibility. I'll still travel to London regularly, but my home base will be here, with you if you'll have me." Maya studied his face, the face that had become so dear to her over the past year, the face that had once been closed off, guarded, but now showed every emotion clearly: hope, vulnerability, love. "I do want you," she said finally, "and the job, and the apartment, all of it." Relief and joy spread across Dominic's features. "Really? Really?" Maya stepped closer, winding her arms around his neck. "But I have one condition." "Anything," he promised immediately. "This foundation, this housing initiative, it can't just be about my parents or about Sophia. It has to be about looking forward, not back, about creating something new, not just atoning for the past." Dominic nodded, understanding in his eyes. "That's exactly what I want too, to honor them by building something that would make them proud, not by dwelling in grief." "Then yes," Maya said, certainty filling her. "Yes to all of it." Dominic's smile was radiant as he pulled her closer. "I love you, Maya Ellis, more than I ever thought possible. "I love you too," she replied, rising on tiptoes to kiss him, a kiss full of promise for the future they would build together. 18 months later, Maya stood in the community center attached to the Ellis Foundation's newest housing development, surrounded by artwork created by the center's first group of therapy clients, children from the neighborhood who had experienced trauma or loss. Each piece told a story of pain, resilience, and healing, a visual journey that moved many visitors to tears. "This is remarkable work, Ms. Ellis," said the city council member who had championed the project. "You've created something truly special here." "Thank you," Maya replied, "but the credit belongs to the children. Their courage, their willingness to express their feelings through art, that's what makes this program work." Across the room, she caught sight of Dominic deep in conversation with Mr. Pembroke, who had become an enthusiastic supporter of the Foundation's arts initiatives. Beside them stood Zoe, now in her senior year of high school, and already fielding scholarship offers from several prestigious art schools. In the year and a half since Maya had accepted the position as Director of Community Initiatives, the Foundation had grown beyond anyone's expectations. The housing program had expanded to 3 buildings, providing affordable homes for dozens of families. The community centers offered everything from art therapy to job training to health screenings, creating spaces where healing and growth could flourish. And through it all, Maya and Dominic's relationship had deepened, strengthened by the shared purpose of their work and the home they had built together. They had their challenges, of course: Dominic's travel schedule, the occasional clash of perspectives, the learning curve of blending their very different lives. But each obstacle had ultimately brought them closer, teaching them to communicate, to compromise, to trust. "Penny, for your thoughts?" Dominic's voice broke through Maya's reflection as he appeared at her side, slipping an arm around her waist. "Just thinking about how far we've come," she replied, leaning into him. "From that night in your office to all of this. A long journey," he agreed, his voice warm. "One I'm grateful for every day." "Even the hard parts?" "Especially the hard parts," Dominic said. "They're what made us who we are." Maya nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. The grief, the struggle, the loss they had both experienced, it had shaped them, prepared them for the life they now shared. Not a perfect life, but a meaningful one built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and deep, abiding love. As the evening wound down and the last visitors departed, Maya found herself back in the art room, standing before a particular painting, one created by a 7-year-old girl who had lost her mother to cancer. It showed 2 figures, one large and one small, standing beneath a star-filled sky, hands linked. "That one speaks to you, doesn't it?" Zoe observed, joining her aunt. "It reminds me of us," Maya admitted. "After your parents died, how we held on to each other through the darkness." Zoe slipped her arm through Maya's. "We did more than just survive, though. Look at us now." Maya glanced around the room, at the healing space they had created, at Dominic speaking with the center's staff, at the home and family they had built from the ashes of tragedy. "Yes," she agreed softly. "Look at us now." Later that night, as Maya and Dominic walked hand in hand through the quiet streets of their neighborhood, she found herself filled with a sense of contentment she had never thought possible in the dark days after her parents' death. "I have something for you," Dominic said suddenly, stopping beneath a streetlight and reaching into his pocket. "What's the occasion?" Maya asked, curious. "No occasion," he replied with a small smile. "Just saw it and thought of you." He handed her a small box, similar to the one that had held the paintbrush necklace, the first gift he had given her, which she still wore nearly every day. Opening it, Maya found a simple but elegant ring, a diamond flanked by smaller sapphires, the color of a night sky. Her breath caught as she looked up at Dominic, who was watching her with nervous anticipation. "Is this—" "Yes," he confirmed, taking the ring from the box and holding it between them. "Maya Ellis, you walked into my office 3 years ago and changed my life completely. You taught me how to feel again, how to hope, how to build something meaningful from grief and loss. Will you marry me?" The simplicity of his proposal, the depth of emotion in his eyes brought tears to Maya's own. She had known somehow that this moment would come, but the reality of it still overwhelmed her. "Yes," she whispered. Then more strongly, "Yes, I will marry you." As Dominic slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that held all the promise of their future together, Maya thought of the long, winding path that had brought them here, a path marked by loss and pain, yes, but also by resilience, by courage, by the capacity of the human heart to heal and love again. 3 years ago, a black woman had entered a billionaire's office to clean and found him crying over a photo of her. Today, that same woman stood in the arms of the man she loved, surrounded by the life they had built together, a life dedicated to healing, to growth, to creating something beautiful from the broken pieces of the past. Not a fairy tale, but something better. A real love story born of grief and guilt but transformed, through time and trust and hard work, into a bond that would stand the test of time. A love not despite their differences, but enriched by them. A partnership of equals, walking side by side into whatever the future might hold. The end.